Very, very, very rarely are you going to have a Kingless podcast where I edit it. In this particular one with Jonathan Cayco, I had to. And the reason why, we started off talking, and for a good 90 minutes, we're talking about a tour he did in the Philippines. Jonathan Cayco, born and raised in America, but Filipino background. So he went to the Philippines, and it's a great story, and he had a great experience. And that alone was remarkable. But after about the 90-minute mark, then we got into worlds. And then we started talking about we were going to talk about powerlifting, the current scene, because in the Philippines, he was doing like seminars and whatnot, still powerlifting related for sure. And it's like a good story. You should listen to it. But we got into worlds. We are going to get into Russ, Will Ball, etc. And once worlds came up, Jonathan revealed something that I think it took him 2 to 3 attempts to say. And then once he did, the conversation completely changed. Completely changed. And you'll know when you hear it. And I think it's important, um, especially given what last month was and what this month was, for people to hear it. And I don't want it at the 90-minute mark. I want it right up front. And I don't ordinarily do this, but for this one, I am. For this one, I'm gonna. So nothing was taken out. It's been reordered. So when you listen to this, we're picking up about 90 minutes deep, and we talked for a half hour before I started recording. So we were already talking about 2 hours. But you got to hear this section. You got to hear it. And then after it concludes, I'm going to cut immediately into Jonathan talking about his trip through the Philippines, which is a riveting story as well, and talk about offering perspective and how it's there's some beautiful stories in that one as well. This was a beautiful conversation for a lot of reasons. Very difficult conversation in some parts, great conversation, and um, yeah, very interested to get your guys' impression on this one. It's going to be difficult to hear this and not have an impression. I guarantee you. So, anyways, with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Geico.
So happy that I'm able to like live the life that I live, even though there's times where it's really hard. Like post worlds for me was so hard. Post worlds for me was so hard because that was such a
Really, why is
yeah.
that?
It was such a like downer to for it to go down that way. For me personally, right? Because I did so great at Nats. I was good for 930 at Nats, 927, 930 at Nats. I played the day, we won. I have 9 weeks to prep. It's hard, but it's not like terrible. It's hard. That's the worst. That's probably the worst prep I've ever had from Nats to Worlds from April to June. And 4-ish weeks out, I get sick.
Mm,
Yeah, someone it was like a flu or something, and that fucked me for like 2 weeks. Like I couldn't even, I could like barely even breathe. And I mean, I had no momentum anyways, and I killed any other momentum that I thought that I could try to. Like I had no, for example, and we can start pushing to like lifting here. Um, in my prep to Nats, where I did 919 and a half, 1 week out, I totaled 890 in the gym, like pretty chill. Like that's like my your tired week, right? That was great.
mm.
My best total in the 8 weeks from Nats to Worlds in the gym was 850.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no. Yeah, I was like, so it was a huge question mark going into Germany. Honestly, I was very happy that I was able to still podium and like have a chance to pull for the win, and which I was fairly close regardless, even though everything felt like shit. Um, so that but yeah, post world was hard for me because I had to. That was like a very hard pill for me to swallow because I had all that time off. Nationals goes fantastic for me. And just like kind of like oh wow like world for worlds to go down for me and that way I was like fuck like um I found myself in like a really dark place in post worlds because it was just really hard. It was really hard for me, and because it's something I care so much about, something I worked so hard towards, but sometimes you can't ask for more. You can't ask more of your body sometimes, and I find, and even for me, I find inspiration like someone like Alex Pereira, like his last fight against Ankalaev, he was like he got sick. He was like I wasn't in my best condition and I lost because of it. But watch what happens when I come in good condition. That's what he said. And look,
Mm-hmm.
he knocks out Ankalaev in 80 seconds, right?
Great.
Um, you know, and and so that's why I'm always looking towards the next one, no matter what. Even though I have to like swallow my pride and be like, fuck, like I lost because this. Um, so
Tell you what though,
yeah,
a very next day, and you never know what happens. Like, okay, couple things. You leading into American nationals, I remember some of the training on you, and people were like, "Holy shit, Jonathan's coming back because this is your comeback, comeback!" And
yeah,
people were like, "Oh my god, Jonathan's gonna uncork like a bonkers total." There's a lot of like, you had such good training days, and then American Nats is a meat grinder from Petrie to Meach to Gavin to like obviously like world class guys. Right down to the very last step. Sensational.
right.
919.5, like with room. Sensational. Sensational. So I get it. And then for worlds, like we weren't seeing the same totals, but like it's Cayco. You're always going to be in the hunt. But the training highlights weren't like leading into nationals. I think we're kind of seeing that, but you never know. Maybe you're holding your cards close to your chest, right? Nevertheless, so afterwards to hear how bad you felt, and I got a couple follow up questions before we move on from Worlds, but the very next day, we ask everybody to come on a live King of Lifts podcast, and you never say no, even though you felt what you felt inside and you were class act throughout, and you let the fellas have like everyone on that podcast at some point got to be a world champion, but you recognize it's his turn now, and you were always classy throughout, and you could have made an excuse if you felt poorly and you're like, God, that sits poorly. Even if you lost, having given a great performance, maybe you could be like, yeah, I didn't win it, but I gave a good performance and I'm happy. Hit PRs, like my God, that was good. But that it didn't sit well with you, and you still were like, you know what, I'm going to show up. I'll answer the questions. It's not my day. It's going to be his. I understand. We're going to celebrate someone else. But I have to show up despite the way I feel, and I have to celebrate that guy because other people did it when it was my turn. And that sounds like maturity and normal, but not everyone will do that, Jonathan. That's why
Yeah,
to hear you later on say I was in a dark place, show up the very next day, no sleep, still, it must have been in the peak of the dark place. You're like, all right, well, let me put on my Sunday best smile and give it to him. And then field questions about Russell and the whole nine and be like, he's coming up. It's not always about me. It's not always my day, but you don't just to get to show up only when it's your day.
right.
To your point, I know you know this is why people like you and show up to see you on your meets, but that's big. That means a lot. It means a lot to me when I hold those events. I'm wondering if people are going to be sour about the situation, just not show up or whatever. And you've never been that guy. You understand what it is. So anyways, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah,
Um,
and to kind of piggyback off that, some people are like, "Oh, how do you feel?" I'm like, "I feel like shit, but I'm very happy for Emil in that case." Like you can feel like shit, but still be happy for someone because I was very happy for Emil that he got his day, you know, and I think that's just something we have to. It's how we traverse through life, right? And yeah, it was really bad for a while. It probably took me like 2 months after Worlds to like kind of feel okay again. Yeah, because that one was because I've had my moments. Everyone has their times, right? The ebb and flow of life and just how you feel. But that was like one of my lowest lows I think I've ever felt. just personally as a person, just like internally, right? Um, and yeah, it was, oh man,
What was it like if you could dive in? Because a lot of people, most people will never reach the level you've reached. So when they have a powerlifting meet and have a bad day, it's at a local level. So you got to understand, most people don't realize what it is to be a multiple time world champ, do world tours, and all of these people that look up to you and say these things to you. So it carries differently when you show up and you're like, people around the world are watching and the pressures are different. That's why some people like, it's just a powerlifting meet, bro. It's like, I get that it is, but it's also it's different. Other
yeah.
people have expectations and you have expectations. And well, for you, what do you think it was? Why do you think it took a while?
I mean, like to be kind of blunt, I didn't realize until later, but I found myself depressed. It was very interesting. I hadn't found myself depressed in a long time. And I don't use that word lightly because, when I say that, I very much mean that word, where, colors sucked out. You don't want to get up, everything, uh, it was very interesting. This is the most I've never wanted to train. And that was something I've
Mm,
never ever wavered on. Um, and not, I didn't miss any days, but it was like there was just no like energy for it. Mhm. And it was very very bad. I found myself just like, oh, fuck. Okay, I think it's. I mean, I guess it's healthy to talk about because I was like, I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but it was bad. It was bad, and I found myself because I never make this my identity, and I'm very good about being grounded. I do all these things. I have I have resources. I talk to people. Um, I'm very introspective. I take time. I take breaks when I need it. I do all the things you should be doing, right? But I still found myself in like a dark place, and at the same time, I found it almost fascinating too because I was like, what the fuck, like. Like I thought I was over stuff like this, as an adult through with experience and stuff. But I think I've learned that no matter what, you're going to have that. And I think it's just like, I think it's the price you. I think that's one of the prices you pay of putting yourself on the line, I guess, with any type of sport or thing like that, right? And I think I just feel very, very strongly sometimes. Um, and yeah, it was just really hard. Like I wasn't mad at anyone or anything. I was just like, why did it have to turn out this way? And just after so much work, and I was like poised to win. Every time I've lost, by the way, the three times I've ever lost out of all the competitions I've done, I was always the favorite to win. There's always something. I mean, everyone has their circumstances, but there was always something that kind of like screwed me over, you know. Um, so to find myself almost back in that cycle in a sense, I was like, it was just like, what am I even doing here? Um, but those are the kind of thoughts that kind of play through your head sometimes, and yeah, I don't want to get like too deep into it because it was pretty bad. It was probably it was probably the lowest I've ever been in my life. Uh,
really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, just internally, like. I have all I'm doing pretty well, all these things, right? But like internally, that was probably the most rock bottom I've ever hit. And it was because
Mm.
it was such a hard one uh for me. In a sense, I think I was so disappointed in myself because I'm very hard on myself. I try not to be. That's what Nina, not just Nina, but my friends always try to talk to me with. But I think that just kind of comes with being a world class competitor, right? You just want to do well, and yeah, to be the best of the best, you kind of have to reach a little far sometimes. And but it was just like such a hard one because I just come off this great performance. I basically went from my best performance to my worst performance, and the worst performance happened when I needed it most, basically. Yeah, and And then it leaves all these question marks about Sheffield and all these things afterwards, right? Um, so it was just a lot for me to take in personally, just like for myself, right? And yeah, it was hard. It was it was really hard. Um, man, it's like, what if I didn't go to the gym and I'll get sick? But there's just things you can't control. There's just things you can't control. Just like how you can control when fighters get burnt out. And then
Mm,
like you'll see, like Izzy. Izzy is a great example of just like, bro, I was just like, there's not like, cause you can train great, but if there's nothing to pull from, there's nothing to pull from,
mm,
you know? And
mhm,
uh, fortunately, I felt in that sense, like spirit wise, I was good in the worlds, but I just knew like there was a big question mark on what I was physically prepared to do. Hmm. So, um, like I failed a bench. I haven't failed a bench in 7 years. I mean,
mm,
obviously the handoff thing was rough, but regardless, right? Um, so yeah, it was just a lot for me to kind of process within myself, and I knew I needed time. I knew I needed time, and I just had to keep taking day. I had to keep taking it like day by day. Um, and fortunately, I was like, okay, well, how can I be productive still in the gym when I'm feeling okay enough? Like, how can I be productive? And I started doing, I was like, okay, now that I have rest and I'm not having to do back to back prep, in this sense from Nats to Worlds. Now I have this off. Now I'm in this off season again, quarter 3 and quarter 4, right? So okay, what can I do? So I'm like, okay, let's get to work, and I start doing. I like what got me to that 9:30 again. What got me to this stronger, right? I had to remind myself, you know, and I mean, I'll just say it, bro. I think it's important to say, and I'll say it. I'm sorry if this is like, I was a little suicidal because it got pretty bad for me, and I had to have a really hard conversation with some people, but and that's just internal. It's not even like it could be I could be doing anything. It could be in a career. It doesn't have to be powerlifting. It was just internally. It's just something that I had to like process for myself, right? And but I knew I was like I based on experience and people I know and things I've seen about stuff like this, I just need time. So I have to give myself time, right? Whether or not I feel the way I do right now, I have to give myself time. So, but not just time, but how can I be productive? Even if it's not in training, how can I be productive in life? How do I get up? I said to get up, yeah, get up, take a shower, get up, brush my teeth, get up, open my blinds, and go for a walk. You know, those are me finding being productive again. You know, so when I say I hit rock bottom, I was like rock bottom. Fuck, dude. Every time I come on, but you see what I mean? Like it's important to talk, right? It's important to talk about these things. But
100%.
um, so I found myself like, okay, I'm gonna go train, and we're gonna do what worked. Maybe there's more things I can add on, but it was working. That's the thing. I can't question what was, it's not like something went wrong. I just didn't have the time in this situation. And that's something I had to kind of keep like, and honestly, that was a big takeaway from this world for me is that I have to respect my time. I have to respect prep time and stuff like that. Um, so I got get in training. We start doing more rehab things. I don't have to lift. I don't necessarily have to be lifting heavy. I'm getting my hips working even more. They're working great, but there's still little things we had to work on. And so for the past few months, that's what I was doing. And I'm even stronger now than when I was at Nats. Just because my legs are under me even more so now, which feels great because squats are actually like squatting. So um, and deadlifts are moving great, and bench obviously always moves. So um,
When you talk about worlds, when you said, I thought I wouldn't have to deal with this kind of thing again, I know what you mean where y- sometimes the realization of that's not the way life works where you don't have to deal with certain things again. The only what life will give you is not the reprieve where this is done. You'll never have to revisit these feelings or feel like this again. Life won't give you that. What life can offer you is experience when it comes around again. And that's the one of the harshest lessons in life. And when you said it hit and it hit maybe harder than I thought ever before, but what was a saving grace was what life gave you, that experience and knowing at least I have to just get through this day. I know it will get better. I have to get through this day. So when you said, all right, I didn't want it to come. I didn't think it was going to come back. I didn't think I would be dealing with this again, but here it is. But while it's here, your knowledge of that, when you said, I know it's going to pass though, how I'll feel in the future is not how I'm going to feel right now. I have to just get up, brush my teeth, do something, one foot in front of the other, get through today. Tomorrow comes. You get up, it's still here. And it feels like, is this going to go away? And then suddenly it starts just a little bit alleviating. And then suddenly the next day, just a little bit more. And then the momentum starts coming back, and then you're back, and then you're like, okay, and you're back on track. But it is that is what can be truly humbling is the realization it there isn't no such thing as forever after happy credits roll. They never dealt with shit again. That's not real. Real
Yeah.
life is until we close our eyes for the last time. Life, the same thing you're experiencing now, you'll always experience throughout, and life will always keep doing these kind of things. Your gift from being able to survive all the things you've gone through is that knowledge that it is an ebb and flow and it'll pass one foot in front of the other. And when you're riding super high and the wave is super high, you know the wave's coming back down. So you know to appreciate it. Life has taught you that. And then when the tide is super low and you're the rocks are out from the water and the water's pulled back and you're at the rock bottom, you know the tide will come back in. You gotta wait it through. You wake up tomorrow, it's still there. It's tide is coming back in. You gotta wait it out. And that's all life can offer you, but you will never stop the tide coming and going. And that's what life is. So I mean, and dude, 100% you're right. Us having this conversation right now. 100%. Because there is going to be somebody listening who is on low tide and the rocks are out. The water's pulled back, the rocks are out. That's rock bottom. Or they're on high tide, but they've been on low tide and they need to hear it isn't going to stay high tide the whole time. You're not going to ride that wave forever. Just, don't rattle yourself. The tide comes and goes. You learn to surf those waves. These are you've said it, man, and these are important. These are important. And we've had these conversations before. We'll have them again. And when you show up anywhere in the freaking world, Jonathan, this is why someone listens to this podcast. You think it's fucking easy, you saying what you just said? Like, of course, it's not, but like anyone listening, they know this is nobody does this, man. Nobody comes on here and talks like this. And it's not just like thing things are gonna come sometimes. In worlds could be a trigger, but high tide, low tide, things are gonna. This is more life than just worlds alone, right? So when you're trying to
Right.
like think your way through things, you can't. It's difficult. Um, it's difficult. It's tough to explain. It's tough to explain to people, I'm sure. And but I'll believe me, people know triggers will come in
Yeah.
life, and all of a sudden you're like, God, why did I react that way to that? And it's just because, man, this is what it is.
Yeah.
This is what it is. You're getting taught lessons. And then thank God you know how to put one foot in front of the other. You got a support team around you and you make it through these moments, man. And you keep coming back and men are horrible for talking about these things. A Men statistically are far more likely to carry through these thoughts and actually do it and perform it, and far less likely to have talked about it. That's a fact. And that is not a coincidence. The fact that men have such a difficult time talking about it and don't because they perceive it as weakness, or they perceive, what do people take it as if I see that, if I say this? And instead of talking about, they keep themselves. And men are far more at risk actually just doing it and doing it violently.
Right.
Um, and uh, and it there are going to be so many people who are going to listen to this and not be strong enough to talk about it. But at least, thank God, they hear somebody like you, whom, being in a strength sport, in a champion, in a strength sport, able to talk about this can help break the stigma in terms of weakness. To feel this way, weakness about talking about it, it's important, man, that one of the strongest men alive will be like, I'm one of the strongest men alive, and this is how I feel. It's important, man. And it's far beyond anything that you do, when you come on these podcasts and have these conversations. And I could see it on your face when you a couple times pause and pause. Should I? Should I? And then you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna go in. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. And it's tough because the fact that you had to hum and haw just shows you how many men are probably, and women, but people out there are doing the humming and hawing. Should I? And it's not on a podcast. This is very difficult because you know how many, this goes everywhere. There are people humming and hawing dealing with this, and they can't tell their significant other. There are people humming and hawing dealing with this, and they can't tell their family, and
Yeah.
and they can't. They fucking can't. There's shame attached, and there shouldn't be. So instead of just saying fuck it, I'm gonna say it like you just did a couple minutes ago. You know what they do, right? They do. They just go through and say fuck it, and they don't go. They don't have that opportunity to have that conversation with whomever. So when you feel like this, and you are who you are, you come on this podcast. It means something, man. It means something for you to be like, you know what? I'm gonna throw this out here. Here's what I dealt with, and here's what got me through it. Realizing I was gonna get through it. I was literally rock bottom, having these thoughts, and here's the one thing that got me through it is knowing there'll be a day when I don't feel like this again. And there's gonna be somebody who's there. The rocks are showing, and they're like, okay, just tell me I won't feel like this in the future. I feel like this now. Tell me it won't be like this forever. Because if it's like this from here on out, this isn't a life worth living.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, thank you for that. Because hope is important. Hope is probably one of the most important things for people. That comes. I mean, like hope is embedded in everything that we do, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's just one of the things. If because like I'm in a position where you look back and you're like, oh, that's stupid, completely stupid, But that's how you felt. And I know, I've known people who've hit those rock bottoms, and like, and they didn't see the hope, and they chose to stop it there. And that happens every day, it happens all the time. But it's important to find, and even if it's hard, you have to find something that looks like hope until it is hope, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's where I think that's where conversation, where conversations like this are extremely important, because last month was Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, Suicide Awareness Month rather, and this month is Depression Awareness Month, because it's towards the end of the year, so just things are a little gloomier, but still, these are important things to talk about because people go through it. People go and never
Yeah.
fucking talk about it. And you know, some of the most depressed people you'll ever meet are the ones who are always smiling, and the ones who are,
Yeah.
and the ones who are doing all these things. Just like they're very high functioning in the sense, right? And it looks different person to person, but everyone. I think one of the biggest things, especially from these events, kind of going back to the events, is that no matter where people are born in the world, no matter where we are in the world, we have different environments, different experiences, whatever. is that we all have similar emotions. We all feel very similarly about like loss. You lose a loved one, you get a new toy, you buy a new something. You know, it's all this. It's all very similar emotions. You know, you pass your test, you know, you get cut off on the street. No matter where you go, it's all very similar emotions, right? Even though we come from very, perhaps very different places in a sense. So, you know, it's, you know, when we are facing our own difficulties, it's so important to to look inward, because there's no one, no, you know, like, you know, no one's going to reach, no one can make that, no one can make you take that step besides yourself. You know, and I think that's where, again, that's where strength comes from, right? You know, if I wasn't strong, you know, you wouldn't be speaking to me, you know? So you know, I hope, you know, when I do portray and talk about strength, that that's something that people kind of understand as well. Because someone asked me, I actually did an AMA in my story, and someone asked, do you see yourself as genetically gifted? Asking me, right? And I absolutely not. No, I've seen genetically gifted. I'm not fucking genetically gifted, you know? And um you know, and my response to that is no, I just seek all forms of strength. That's just, I think that's just something I've always been, and that's why a lot of people like, you know, they tell me I'm like Goku. You, you know, there's like the parallels of Goku, because Goku just wants to be the strongest, right? But in the real life world, what is being the strongest? You know, just what is being strong? Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally and spiritually and all these things, right? Um, so I'm just someone who seeks strength in all its forms. I think that's a great way of explaining myself. And you know, back onto what we were talking about, is just I knew I had to, again, take it one day at a time, one fucking hour at a time if I had to, you know. You know, because I would like isolate, you know, you isolate yourself, you do all these things, and you know it's not good, but you still do it. But you can't stop, you can't not. But maybe that's
Mm,
okay right now, because maybe you're not ready to take that step yet, and that's okay. But just the thing is, you have to know, like, even if you're not ready to take that step forward, just know one day you will be. I think that's important, because some days might look stagnant and just you're just sitting in the bottom, and you're just like, well, fuck, like, I don't want to move. I don't have the energy. I don't have the willingness to move. But just being present and still there is enough sometimes, because a day will come where you can take that step. And that, again, back to your point, I understood that I had to just stay here so I could take the step, you know. So and obviously right now I feel I'm in a better state of mind. um Not to say I was like, you know, I obviously, like, I try to stay very very conscious of myself, but you can't help but what you feel sometimes, right?
mm,
So
mhm.
yeah. Physically, it's interesting because now, as we talk, physically, I'm the strongest I've ever been, even more so than that. Um, Mentally, I'm the strongest I've ever been because of because of things. You know, like, even if hardships are going to come, like you mentioned, and I know that things aren't always going to go your way. Worlds was asked for me, right? But I learned from it. I learned from it, and I grew from it. You know, and these events, every time I have these events, I'm so thankful, because more than likely, in every single one I've done, the three major ones I've done, I've grown from them, and they've had some type of impact on me. You know, especially, for example, and let me go back all the way when we were talking about the kids at Heidelin's camp. Some of them followed me, and some of them, like, looked, you know, when they looked at, like, they followed me prior. They knew who I was, and even then, some of them learned who I was. I talked to them, and, like, damn, this is actually really hard to say. It's like, I'm happy I stayed around because I got to see these kids smile. You know, fuck, bro. It's hard. It's hard to, like, say that, right? Because it's like, oh, sorry, Nina's here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. She got me a drink. So, like, you see what I mean? Like, how important, like, how profound is that, right? And, um, and yeah, I just, and look at all the people I'm able to. And Nina tells me this all the time, especially when I was like down. She's like, look at all the people that look up to you, that all the people you've inspired, and all these things. So, and even more so, like I said, like in person, I'm, as much as they're going there for me, I'm going there for them, you know. And I've said that in prior events, So it's that people connection um, is so important. I think not just to me. I think it's just a human thing. It's so important for us to be able to connect with each other, right? And understand each other. It's not saying that we're not going to feel like shit and all this, right? But it's this understanding that that's how life is, and who knows, maybe down the road I'm probably going to have more shit I'm going to have to deal with, and that's just how it is, right? But that's okay. It's just understanding where you are in life, and like I talk about the ebb and flows of life. If sometimes the high is higher, sometimes that low is really low, but it's understanding where you are and knowing that as time passes, it's going to move. And you said the exact same. You said the same thing. It's important just being conscious of knowing where you are. I think that's where it's a lot of people who end up going through with it, and shit like that. They end up they don't. It's hard to see. It's hard to see. I think that's where it ends up. They end up making the decisions because they don't see. It's hard to see in the moment, and you don't see that the curve that wants to go back up, and it looks too far, or it looks. I don't even want to get right. But you just have that's where hope comes. You have to hope it's there, and sometimes hope gets built from you. You know, like just like how there's that saying. It's like uh, the hardest workers seem to be the luckiest people too. It's something like that. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
it's
good.
the
I
same.
love that one.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like you can have hope, but blind hope is just blind hope. You have to have hope, and you have to be willing to step towards it. You know, so yeah, so having being able to kind of articulate that, and again being able to be conscious, being able to be uh, conscious and talk about it is very very is very nice. So um, I'm not coming on here for like therapy. Every time I fucking come on here, I'm just talking. This is how this is. I'm this is what I feel. This is how I am.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people feel like this. Not just me. People have these things
yeah.
in their life. But it's about, can we fucking talk about it? It's important, right? Excuse me. Cool.
Well,
And
this is what happened after Worlds.
yeah, I
You
mean,
get asked a question and you're answering honestly.
yeah, that's how I felt. And like, and if you say you never felt that, you're fucking lying. Like if someone's like, "Oh, bro," like, nah, shut up, bro. You're
You're
fucking
just
lying.
not old, or you're just not old enough yet. Life hasn't
Yeah,
given you a
or
reason
yeah,
yet.
yeah, or you haven't had it
You,
yet. Yeah,
yeah, life, every single one of us has an expiration date. Life will take away loved ones. Life will take away, don't, you can't relate. You are just young. That's all. You're just too young, but
yeah,
life is going to teach you. And that's why it's unanimous. Every single person you've ever met is going to be broken at some point. And if you say no, I've never been broken, I'll never be broken, then what does it matter with you when I tell you I could take away your parents, I could take away your brother, I could take away, and that won't break you? What does the matter with you? What are you saying that
yeah,
it,
yeah.
no, I can't relate? What are you talking about? Do you not love? What do you mean? Because life
Right.
is going to take everybody you know, including yourself in the end. So don't tell me. Of course, it's relatable to everybody listening. Once we just get honest on that, all right, now we're having conversations. Now let's
Yeah,
just talk. Let's talk freely.
yeah. So, and that's the thing. Like when I get into it, I don't. It's like, damn. Like, should I even talk about this? But I think it's important, right? And you touched on that, and um, So yeah, I mean, like right now, I'm just in a position where like I don't know if I have Sheffield. I don't know, like if I'm not doing Sheffield, then I have Nats, right? And like I feel very strongly about these things. These are things that are important to me. Look what it's given me. It's given me a platform to go to these countries, meet people I would have never met, have friends with relationships with people I would have never ever otherwise had a reason for. You know, so of course I care about this thing so much, right? And of course I want to win so much, not just for me, but I want these opportunities to show we can do it and meet the people that I want to show, like you know.
Mm.
Um,
But
so
here's something I would say that because I totally get what you're saying there. So then it applies pressure on performance for specific events because literally the doors that open up for you are life changing and it's the specialist. And then you could it could be like, what if I don't do Nats? What if I don't make a worlds? Do these doors close? Does this magical moments that we're talking about start going away? But here's something I would say. Couple things. Number one, faith is a word that means different things to different people. But one interpretation you could say of faith is just a version of hope on something you can't see is faith. You can't see it, but that's what just having faith means. There's something there that you can't see that's around the corner. So whether it's a person, an event, or something, you're only seeing the pathway of Sheffield, Nats, Worlds. All you're going to see is that. But there is so much more waiting in your life, and you're picturing the pathway because that's all you've ever done are those pathways. And when you're in your 40s, 50s, crazy doors are gonna open for you in so many other pathways. But you gotta stick around and have faith. You can't see these. You're talking about pathways you see. There are pathways you have no idea are even there, and they're not even those steps haven't even been laid out yet, but they're there. They're there, my man. Like I could tell you, when I was in my 30s, I was on a reality TV show on a tour talking to kids in high schools. In our Independence Day in Canada, I was in the parade. In 30,000 people showed up at this parade, not just for me, obviously, but I'm in the parade. I'm on back in the day in television, they had commercials. I don't even know if commercials still exist. And someone from that channel would say, from all of us at CBS, have a happy holidays. That was me because I was on television. I was on Canada's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, YTV, a TV show for kids, Guinness World Record show, flying all over. And I would pop up on these shows, Six Pack Lapadatt. I'd be on talk shows, nationally syndicated talk shows as Six Pack Lapadatt because I'm on these doing these things. And then the reality show got canceled. And then my tour stopped and I wasn't going to public schools anymore. And literally, I mean, parents take days off work to come in and thousands of people chanting six pack when I came out. It all stopped. And I thought, Jonathan, I had to get back onto reality TV show, find a way. I'm going through every TV producer I ever met, emailing, phone calling, and the emails, the replies weren't there, the phone calls aren't getting picked up. And you tell yourself, well, I guess that's that. In all of the things I did, I went to sick kids for uh, cancer camp for kids, pulling buses, giving them motivational speeches, visited sick kids, hospitals, and everything I was doing, I thought, man, giving back and the way it made me feel, the way it made them feel, and the whole nine. And I'm thinking, well, I guess that's that. My run is at the that's it. You think that's what it is, but I didn't know the other pathway. And then one day, I'm on the IPF media team doing social media, and a fucking email comes through to Gaston Parage to the media team. And Gaston says, is anybody on the media team want to do commentary? And I replied, yes. Out of a whim. No idea. In that year in 2016, I started King of the List podcast and started commentating the same year. Never in my wildest dreams. I never thought about a podcast or commentating. And I've flown all over the world and had conversations like this. And I never would have seen this coming. And I'm no longer an athlete. And I would pose to you this is bigger and more special and more impactful. And the people I meet, you could never take away the experiences I've had over this 10-year journey in this new role. Never would have saw that coming, Jonathan. When I was your age, I had never done any of this. You know what I was doing when I was your age? I was on television and I would go to a restaurant and people would come out and want to take pictures because it's mainstream, not just powerlifting. Never, when all that went away, never would have thought all of this was here. Faith, you can't see it. You're thinking pathways because it's all, and you're talking about things you've only ever saw. You have no idea what's waiting for you in your 40s, 50s. You have no idea people you're going to meet. You have no idea, and you can't picture it. Faith that it's there. And stop thinking about the old pathways. It's nothing you can imagine. It's nothing you're picturing. That's not what the future is, right? So don't put too much stock in a Sheffield, a Nationals, a World. At some point, that'll be old hat. Anyways, my man, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was good. I
We,
appreciate. No, yeah, that's good. It's a
uh,
good one. It's a good one. It was a good one. No,
yeah,
that's good, man. That's good. No, thank you for that. Yeah, because no, you're right. You're right. Sometimes we get, especially speaking as a like a in this space as a like a world class athlete. Sometimes that's all we see, and sometimes that's not all life is. Of course you want to do well and you want to prepare, but that's all it is. I mean, um, shit. I could probably like these events too. These are great, but there's still more. There's still more. And like with these events, I never would have expected to do these. There's no like they started with Mexico, and that was just like let's just go for fun. It was almost like visiting a friend. And then we were like, oh, let's turn it into an event, and then it got a little bigger, and then like, oh, you know what? Let's do Malaysia, and then and then they're like, oh, Philippines, like let's plan for the Philippines, and then I hopefully next year we have because it looks good. It's getting bigger and people like it and it's gained traction and I would have never have guessed because even when we were in Mexico, every time we fly somewhere, me and Nina, and we get to our hotel, I'm like, hey, can you believe we're in South Africa right now? I'm just like looking out the window. I'm like, hey, can you believe we're in Paris right now? Hey, can you believe we're
yeah,
in
done.
London? And these are places I've been. Like, can you believe we're in Sweden? Can you believe we're in Kuala Lumpur? I'm just like looking out the window. That's something I always say to Nina. And I wish I documented it more, but I'm always just kind of in the moment. And I'm like, can you believe we're in Mexico right now? Can you believe we're in the Philippines right now? And there's just besides the point of competitions, just doing these events is just so it's just it's just something I never would have imagined. And it wasn't something we really planned on anyways. It's just kind of, hey, you want to come and hang out? Sure. And then we kind of made it into an event um and the reception was great. So but no, thank you for sharing that. It's really nice hearing that from someone who's my senior in a sense, right?
Older. I knew
And
you were looking for older,
yeah.
but a nice way
No,
to
no,
say
no,
it.
yeah.
It's true though. I got you. No,
Hey, man,
yeah, man.
the age ceiling for athletes has went up, and it's really cool to see. I still feel like I got a good five. How old am I? 5, 6, maybe 7 if I'm really good about it. Years of prime left of me in me and PRs. So that makes me excited, right? Um, I know I'm getting towards the later end of it, but I'm the strongest I've ever been. So it just makes me all the more excited. So
What's going to help you too is the fact that this is why, and I just gave perspective, but um, say yes to endeavors and opportunities and make yourself available because you never know. You never know.
you never
And
know.
go outside your comfort zone and be like, well, I haven't tried this before. Say yes, raise your hand, go do it. And when you show, it might not even be the original thing you went for,
Right.
and doors open up because you showed up and you
Yeah.
don't know who you're going to meet and you don't know what's going to happen when you meet them.
and kind of random there, but like something a skill I always wanted was to be a good public speaker. It was just I just thought it was a good. I think it's a good skill to have. And I just thought it was cool. But I was an introvert growing up. I hated talk. I could never speak in front of two people. No way. In front of a crowd, hell no. Right. And I found myself especially in the Philippines. It was funny. I caught myself. I held this group of like 25 people for 3 hours straight, actively engaged. Everyone loved it. Speaking, I'm just speaking the whole time. I get back to my hotel and I was like, wait, when did I get so good at public speaking? And I was
Crazy.
like, oh wow, cool. So there's just things you never think because they're like, you asked me that 10 years ago. I'm like, oh shit, no way. What the hell? I'd be too scared, right? So you just never know. You just never know. Yeah, you have to say yes. You know what? You have to say yes where even if you're not sure, you have to say yes. Because
Correct.
yeah,
And when you have those moments where you're humming a hawing, you're like, man, fuck it. I'm gonna now you
yeah,
know me. And you just say it, throw it out there. Fuck it. Now you know me.
yeah,
How you like that? Now when people see you, you know how much easier it'll be to talk to them when you know you've already just whatever. You've done this so many times. It's got to be so freeing. By the time someone meets you, it's like you know me through and through. You know what I've been through, my family, my whole nine. You know my upbringing, everything. You know everything. It is what it is. So how you don't have to be anything but you. It's true.
yeah,
It's so much easier. And let me also say, Jonathan, if you ever start like, yes, doing when people show up for a bench seminar, it's easy because they're there for something that's easy, and you're obviously the best in the world at it, the best of all time at it. You've broken world records several times over, so you show up for that, and it's an easy segue into come for this, stick around for the other, and you start talking. But at some point, my friend, you could start doing public because you have a gift because you could just you're not afraid whatever you were before, this version of Jonathan is not afraid to talk and not afraid to go there. And if you started having seminars and the point that you are a strength athlete, breaking the stigma is so important. You would be booked, my friend. What you could do in the like, this is a whole, like, I'm telling you, this is a whole nother thing. And whatever. Keep doing what you're doing now, but later on, when your schedule frees up, that is a whole nother version of you talking to people, your reach. And because you are a strength athlete, it's going to hit a whole lot different in your ability to break stigmas around it. And your ability to storytell is phenomenal. Your willingness to be open is phenomenal. And I mean, you're a one percenter for a strength athlete. That is a 1% because almost nobody does it. Almost no, especially among men. I've had several women open up on this podcast about tons, very few men. And those two things lined up is like two stars lining up, my friend. Whatever happens in your future after your athletic career comes to a close is going to be probably eclipse this in a lot of ways. But only time reveals that. Like we said, only time will tell. So whatever, one foot in
yeah,
front of the other.
yeah. No, I never even thought about that. That's such an interesting because it's funny. Someone mentioned that. Why don't you just like screw the bench seminars? Why don't you just talk? We can just talk. We can just get on the mic and we can just chat. We can talk about stuff like that. And I was just like, huh, because that's that for example, on that bench seminar we had in the Philippines, it was about 3 hours long, and the last hour was just me on the mic talking, talking about my life and philosophies and my experiences and taking questions from people. People were crying and you know, um, and then just those connections, right? And I think again, I think I just find myself um, being able to connect. I think that's the thing that why these events do well is because I feel like people find it very easy to connect to me. because I want to because that connection's there. I want to connect to people. So it's like it's not like I'm trying to be exclusive or anything. It's just like I don't. We're the same. We're just people, and we're the same. And I know and more than likely, especially if you come from a hard place, I know you've had to deal with some shit. And people are very open to telling me about that shit. You know, and I think there's some. I think that's a very again. I think that's a very powerful thing. To listen. I think listening is a very powerful thing. I think more people need more times than not. People can you find more. There's more to find in listening than into explaining sometimes. And yeah, yeah. No, but that's a great idea. I'm gonna write that one down. For you're gonna see my whatever my next event is. What's this? Is no, there's no bench seminars. What it's a
My
life
man,
seminar.
my man, you've done this already so much on this podcast over years that the you have so much story to tell, meat on the bone, and this has all been not for not like thousands of people around the world have already heard it, taken from it, and you already know that. And then you've also gained strength from saying it, and it gets easier and easier the more you open up. And you already know, like, yeah, I mean, the first time we talked to now, and it just gets easier and easier, man. That's why you are this guy, as opposed to we were talking about earlier. If you go on a trip, like for sure you'll post things, but your biggest skill is your verbal skills of talking and expressing yourself, and in this more long format and telling stories and whatnot. And this is a unique skill, my friend. Um, but yeah, and that's not even begun.
Yeah,
You're still living the story you're going to tell.
we're
Yeah,
still in the
yeah.
middle of it talking about it.
You're still living out the athletic side as opposed to, um, yeah, all that. I mean, all that is, literally, people say, thank you for the TED talk. And they say it like sarcastically when they make a post. My man, you could easily line up a TED talk with some crazy stories and just hit them with a lot and hit them with a lot of good stuff. Get a tight 20, tight 25, or however long, rehearse it, get it tight, hit the points you want to hit, and let people walk away, let them digest that and see what happens.
Yeah,
And
I've
you'll get your
always
foot in the door.
that's not a bad idea, honestly. It's very interesting, kind of piggybacking off that. A lot of people, and I always feel like I'm just like dragging or whatever, and they're just like, no, 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 like keep going, keep talking,
Mhm.
and and I've heard this more than once now. I've heard this multiple times. They said, why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book about all this? Because this is, um, yeah, and that to me is like, oh, it's like, at first I'm like, about what? Like, what am I writing about? But because it's just like my experience, but it's I guess my uh, just the way I can portray and what I've my own experience. Apparently, it could be worthwhile. But I heard that during this trip a few times. They're like, man, why don't you write a book about this? Or like or even when this is all said and done, like your athletic career, like there needs to be a book. People were saying we need to write a book back in 21. Yeah, and
But there was
look at
so
us
much
now.
more story
Yeah,
about.
look
Yeah,
at it
yeah.
now.
That's why that's why the difficult time, like to write the book when you would have missed so much because you've done so much since then. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, and then if you tie the stories to your book to like some bigger meaning like you usually do. That's your version of storytelling. You usually do when you just naturally. That's how you tell stories. You attach some bigger meaning to it. For sure. And that easily, dude, there's a lot. There's a lot you could do, man. You don't want to
yeah,
spread yourself thin right now because you gotta
yeah,
like you're literally it's 2025 and you had the biggest total of your life at 919.5. And everyone's all over Will Ball right now. He just did a half a kilo more. Like you're right in the
yeah,
hunt. You can't take your eyes off. You got to, yeah, I know, like you're right in the mix right now. And this is your prime. This is your prime, man. You've
yeah,
never been stronger. And it's exciting. And there's like new people in there. It's exciting again. It's fresh. Ride this wave and do all that. And just know that, like, yeah, whenever you're ready to pull the trigger on these other ideas, there's so much to do, so much to do, but all in due time. And you can't do it all at once. You don't rush. You take care of business. Keep doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure even the bench seminars and other seminars take you all over the world and add more stories to tell. Whether it's verbal in a book or whatever, or both. I mean, don't limit yourself by all means, or on the King List podcast, my man. As soon as you hit me up and you're like, I just came back from the Philippines. I think I got a good story. I'm like, how about next weekend, my friend? Let's
Yeah.
I love these conversations.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. You're already sharing in certain versions. You're already doing it. But yeah, who knows, man? You're still young as hell. In terms of life, in terms of
Yeah. Yeah.
athlete,
Yeah.
yeah, in terms of athletes, one thing, life, man, it keeps going and going.
Yeah.
Keeps going and going, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, go on, go on, go
No,
on.
go, no.
I was gonna say, what is next for you? Do you think is it Nats? Take some time, let the ride the wave, let the body heal, because you really don't need to do much else besides Nats, right?
Yeah, not really. It's like it's either I get Sheffield
Yeah,
in
that's right.
January. If not, then it's gonna be Nats in March, right? Something like that.
Because you can book Nats exactly that. You
Mm,
wait and see Sheffield. You can book Nats. That's up to you.
yeah,
So either which way, first quarter next year is what we're looking at, right?
pretty much. Yeah, yeah. Which gives me time, because it's funny. We even wanted to do another event in December, uh, in the Latin America area. I won't name the name, but I'm a little traveled out right now because,
Yeah.
yeah, I flew a lot this year, but yeah, man, I've been racking up miles, by the way, and you have too. I know you.
Well, we love it. Here's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Like, you just got back from the Philippines, so you're probably still like, fuck, I know what you mean. But come December, you never know if you're like,
I know.
you,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
never know if you're like, I would like to get another because it all like it drains the battery, but it also recharges it at the same time.
right.
It's hard to say, it's hard to describe,
Yeah,
but like, and you never know what's there and what you're gonna see in the whole nine. But you also gotta sit back because when Sheffield gets revealed, you got to take that into consideration. Like, does this impact that, or like, you know,
right.
you got some time, see what
Yeah,
happens, and then but it's always nice to have these things on the table, dude. You're blessed right now.
yeah, and I yeah, and I definitely understand that, and yeah, man, these events, man, like I've just not just the people I've met, but the friends and relationships I've gained through them is just, it's those are things you can't buy. You can't buy friends. You can't buy people who care about you. And I think that's where I find so much, what's the right word? I find so much life, I guess, from it, you know? You just find so much fulfillment. That was a big word, I think that came out of the event for me. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
And as we're getting close to like 2.5 hours or whatever,
Are we? Holy
or wait a
shit.
minute, it's like 8 o'clock. I don't know, or more. But no, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I do need to ask you about what
Oh
were your
shit,
thoughts
yeah.
on Will Ball? How exciting is it to throw one more time to powerlifting? We had such a good conversation, by the way. I'm glad when we don't even talk powerlifting sometimes,
Yeah,
but
it's like it's
um,
like three
I
hours.
know,
Not even-
but yeah, how exciting is it to have a young guy like this, 19 years old and freaking do 920, like in having new faces, Russ is your teammate. You talked about it before coming up and like it's almost um just a new cast of characters. Meech is doing well on his way up as well. Had a
Yep.
phenomenal deadlift at Ivanka's um Vance's, sorry. Yeah, like how does it feel to have like new people in the mix and having new faces, new cast of characters, new possibilities, new things to look forward to.
It's exciting. I mean, like that's the point. That's my point, right? Like when you grow the sport, more people come in. That's the point of
Yeah.
it, right? So I'm just happy that there's the younger generations really into it. That's what makes me happy. There's like the younger generation super into powerlifting, and that's like I can't ask for more. Like I love it. I
Mm.
love going against strong people. So it's like I get my wish, you know. So I'm just
Mm.
excited to go against people, and that's really always where I stand when it comes to stuff like that. It's just like, dang, they're strong. That's cool. Like I want to go against that, you know. And that's kind of the mindset I've always had my whole life, doing any sport really. Oh, they're good at this, or you know, I just like want to kind of test myself and compete. So I'm really excited, you know. So yeah, this could be good, man. Like, fuck, I want to go against. It's so cool because I love. It's so cool because I'm so competitive, and I found like healthy ways to do it, right? But I'm so competitive, and I'm just so happy I'm in the most stacked weight class because that means like I get to be competitive and go against people. You know, like I love that pressure. I love going. I love like, I'm gonna sit in the pocket and we're gonna trade, and I don't care if you hit me 5 times. I'm gonna hit you 6 times. You know, I love that. You know, that's how I grew up. Like actually in fighting and stuff too. You know, um, so it's exciting to me, and I'm just happy that the younger generation uh, is also enjoying powerlifting, right? And yeah, it's just cool. It's just cool to me.
And having a guy who's like 19, like Will Ball, and you're in your 30s, like at some point he's going to be 30. He's going to be like that, and that's 11 years from now, which is
Yeah.
crazy to say. But that like if he ends up being a legend, you'll have had some years crossover where you could be like, I remember going against that guy when he was a young guy on his way up. I
Mm.
remember, and you want to make it so he remembers you. So he has some stories too. But it's an opportunity to be like, who knows? Maybe this kid ends up being really something super special. And by the time he's your age now, who knows what he'll have achieved? And when he looks back, hopefully you've had your moments. And remember, I remember John, like he's on a podcast or whatever the hell platforms they have by the time he's 33. And he's like, I remember Jonathan Cayco. I remember our two eras. There's like 15 years between us, but we had a few years that overlapped, and we went to war. And let me tell you about Jonathan. He had already won world championships, broken world records, and I was a young man, but we overlapped for a few years there. We stood in the pocket, and let me tell you about Jonathan. And you're like, okay, that's also how you get passed on is when the young guys come up and you do that. And then when you move on and they continue on, just like when Russ hops on here and keeps talking about Brett Gibbs. Brett Gibbs will never. Brett Gibbs is still around because Russ is here to tell the stories about. Let me tell you about 2017, 18 when I battled, or 18, 19 when I battled Brett. You live on through these guys. When your era comes to a close and their era continues or whatnot, it means something. It's an opportunity.
Right.
And he might be a special kid. Who knows? He's only 19. But yeah, there's always more sports moments, more moments to be had, and God knows what the future is, man.
Right.
God
The
knows what's
the
around the
the
corner.
few the future's bright, and I'm very hopeful for. I'm just so extremely hopeful for the sport. We have to have faith. You have to, not just faith in ourselves, but faith in this sport. And I think,
Mm.
um, I think the future is bright. So um, I'm really excited. Just in general for everything. So
All right. Okay, my man. We already started talking. You got me all
yeah,
fired up. It's true. We're gonna dive into everything, but you've been a bit of a world tour here, and it's changed perspective for yourself. It's changed perspective on how possibly we could grow the sport. And you were touching up on some great points before we started recording. I want to hear about like last time when you said you went to Mexico. But I mean, well, yeah, sure, we'll talk about the 93s, they're red hot, but more like for sure. But more than just that, you were touching up on how look, there's trash talk, etc. And it's almost like a treat you can eat and you're immediately satiated, but then immediately it's almost like you're immediately hungry right afterwards. You need more, like it's whatever. But to actually grow the sport, when somebody shows up to a land like when Ali went to Africa, and those people will never forget. And he became iconic and legendary. And Ali went all over the world. And we were talking about how a guy like Ali's been dead for 10 years and they'll never forget him. Yeah, 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 yeah. He trash talked his opponents. I remember what he said about Joe Frazier, whatever. And George Foreman, whatever. But more than just that, what people forget is after the hype of the fight was over, etc., he was there and the people, they had parades for him. If you see pictures and videos of how people received him and him walking the streets, and when he walked the streets, crowds would just form behind him all through America, all over the world. He would do this. And he would like weeks go before, stay afterwards, and just be available to the people. And that's really how the people fell in love with him. So then, yeah, when a match came up, he would hype it. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. And you were touching up on, that's why we'll get into this, a bit of a segue here. You're touching up on, sure, sure, sure. Meet's coming up. You're going to have who's going to win, this, that, and the other. Of course, it's sports. It's intriguing. The 93s are all super close now. You're 919, Will's 920, Russ is 918. You're all like a kilo away. It's super exciting. Who's going to win? Very exciting. But you said, you started last time you were on and you continued since, and we want to talk about it, how your journey literally around the world, making yourself available to people that ordinarily would not see people of your caliber in this sport, and what that does to grow the sport, to grow like reputation of athletes in the sport when they actually, oh, you're here, you came here, we take for granted in the US, but around the world they're not used to seeing you show up, be available, stick around, and that impact, what that does to grow the sport. So then when you go into your next competition and they watch that live stream, it's going to feel different when they root for you, when they rally for you, and there's all of that. So anyways, last time you came on, you talked about Mexico and it was phenomenal. And you did more journeys, and we got a lot to cover. So
Yeah.
so with all
There's a
that, my
lot we
friend,
can,
yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
I won't try to drag it out because, there's a lot to cover, but I'll just try to stick to the key points, right? But there's a lot of key points.
I bet. Can only imagine.
Just a quick recap. Mexico, we were there last year, August, excuse me, we were in Mexico around late August of last year, 2024. I was there for a few days, like almost half a week, a little bit under a week. And, we did a little meet and greet. We trained together. I got to meet the community. We kind of tested the waters. It was just something we did for fun. And like we were saying before, um, I had some time off. I was rehabbing things. I got a lot stronger. Um, and when I went there, I'm always trying to I'm like, okay, cool. We're doing a meet and greet. Cool. I'm going to meet the community. That's fantastic. But how can I make this productive? Right? What can I do? Um, that it's something I gravitate towards. It's something I would gravitate towards, and automatically always click to what can I do to help grow this sport, because I love this sport. I love powerlifting. Like, all fluff aside, just powerlifting itself. I think the reason I love powerlifting so much, I think it's one of the most easily accessible sports in the world. Like, honestly, it's a barbell. Everyone knows what a barbell is. It's a barbell of some type. It's readily accessible somewhere in the world now, and you can have kids all the way up to senior citizens doing it, right? And it's very easy. They don't have to necessarily lift as heavy, but when they do the squat, bench, deadlift, they're powerlifting, right? They're doing these compound movements, and it's just a quick, easy. Like I said, it's so accessible. It's an easy way to access, self empowerment. Honestly, for a lot of people around the world, and just finding that not just physical strength, but those challenges, right? Getting people in the gym, getting people healthy, and I think that's why I push for it so much. Not so much the competition, that's fantastic, but the same way people push for, in the sense, like we were just talking about Ali, people push for boxing to get in the gym. They just want people to be physically active, and that's literally all I want at the end of the day. If I can get, if me doing what I do gets people more physically active, from all demographics and everything, then I've done what I want to do with that, right? Because why not? I think people deserve to, I think people deserve to live a happy life. It's not going to be having a happy life doesn't necessarily mean not having challenges. Living a happy life means setting yourself up to do that. right? And I think especially being physically active, obviously we know, especially nowadays, is one of those huge factors towards that. Um, but before I get too sidetracked there, I've been around. We've been around the world now with more to come. We did Mexico. I found myself speaking to the community leaders there. Be like, what's the problems here? What's the like uh, what's the problem with the infrastructure of the sport in this case, in this sense, powerlifting? What can we do to help build it here? What can we help to help grow it? How like to have your representation, to have your to the incentives for people to want to come in, not just do the sport, but to stay in the sport, right? Um, and the same thing in Malaysia when we went to Malaysia about 4 weeks after Mexico in September of last year, and the same thing. Got to meet a lot of people. You leave that impact of it's such a different thing. You can see people you root for online all the time, and not just in powerlifting. You see your favorite fighter, your favorite tennis player, your favorite football player, but if you go to meet them in person, you're gonna remember that. You're like, it doesn't matter if you're really a huge fan of them, but if you know who they are, that's something you remember. I think I found myself realizing that I'm in a somewhat similar position to where people want to go out of the way to meet me. People like when I went to Malaysia, people flew in from Singapore, people flew in from Indonesia area,
Wow.
um, and people, and from even in Mexico, people drove as far as 6 hours just to come say hi to me. Just say they said hi to me for 5 minutes and left. Same thing in Manchester, actually. When I actually this wasn't an event, but I was in Manchester 2023 September, and I went for an SPD. I was helping SPD with something there, and I visited, and I just went to a gym. I went to a gym because I wanted to work out, and I put it on my story. Hey, I'll be at this gym, right? And we had like 30 people show up.
That's crazy.
You
Really?
know, yeah, and we
Holy
filled the
shit.
whole gym was filled up. It was just like a small gym. I believe the name was Raw Strength. Shout out to them if you guys were there. And we filled the gym up. And someone came in, he was like, "What the fuck happened to my gym? Why is it full?" Like and
Big man.
and that was even 2023, late 23 September,
Yeah.
right? That was for the momentum shoot, the chevron colors.
You would have been red hot right after Malta, though. That was good
Right,
timing. But
and
still, to your point, wow.
right, and people that I try to stop and talk to them. I try to stop and listen because it's important, right? Because who knows? Maybe I'll never see this person again. But some of those people that I met in Manchester, they still message me to this day, and they say, "I remember that day.
Really?
That was one of my most memorable days of my life, just hanging out with you." You know,
Do
and
you feel when something like that happens? First off, that's awesome. When something like that happens and that many people show up, do you feel like, oh my gosh, this kind of changes now? I better take off my headphones and start giving people time then. It
yeah,
turns, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But at the same time, I'm also training, and most people respect that, and just as that, they love to see that. I'm just
That's
there
true too.
training. Hmm.
That's true. That's true, dude. They came there to watch. That's also true. They came there to watch you lift some heavy ass weights as well in person, and they want to see what it looks like. They want to see a peek behind the curtain what a session like with you is. That's true.
Yeah, because like I rack the weight. There's no camera doesn't turn off. There's nothing. I get up. You see I'm a
Yeah,
person. And
yeah, yeah,
so I
yeah.
remember some people on that same Manchester event. They told me they took trains. Like people, like same day, they just grabbed trains 4 hours away, 4 or 5 hours away.
Crazy
Came in,
man.
said hello, took a picture with me, gave me a hug, left.
What does it feel like when something like that happens? When that happens to you, are you? What do
That was probably one of the first major times. And I was like, oh, like we had at that time, we were coming off Sheffield and Malta at the time, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Like there's always that recency bias. People are very, especially at the time, I was like, oh, like, I don't know if these people like me because I'm like, like, am I just because I'm like known or do they actually give a fuck who I am, right? Maybe a little both, but neither are bad to be fair, right? But it was very humbling because I remember, and I try to remember every single person I meet. And I think that's why I do, or rather, I enjoy doing it, and I find myself. like most of the kind of cutting back forward. These events, I don't make any money. These events, I ask,
Really?
I don't, yeah, I don't know if I'm, yeah, I mean, I already, yeah, I don't make any money from these events. Like,
Wait, should I
I
say
lose
this?
money. Yeah, I lose money
What?
because
Wow.
I actually I actually refuse to take any profits because what I ask is the money made using my image at these events, especially and we have it signed in now. It's like it goes back into the gyms. It goes back into running events because there needs to be incentive, right? There needs to be money.
Mm,
No matter how much you love something, there needs to be money to keep something afloat, right?
mm.
And if I can help in some way, then shit, I'm going to do that, right? And
So this
I'm
is like a
not
fundraising. You're like fundraising for the local,
exactly,
the local community, essentially.
yeah, exactly,
Just cover my expenses. Get me out there
yeah,
as much as possible. I'll help fundraise. I'll help you. God damn, man. That's what a champion does, huh?
yeah.
Well, you would
So
hope. If everyone did what you did. Anyway, sorry, go on.
no, I'm sorry, yeah, yeah. Sorry if I'm. I mean, fuck, that's my choice. I can disclose it, but
Right.
um, the Manchester. I remember back on that. Someone this kid, like I was saying, I try to remember everyone. I remember it was a kid. His mom drove him there, and he was so happy. And I think that was one of the first times I've seen someone so excited to just see me. Just like I drive in and I see them like looking at me, and I see they're like giddy and they're excited. And I get out, he's just like, bro, like it's just like this kid, and then he's like, my mom drove me here like 2 hours, and she has no idea who you are, but I was telling her who you are while we were. And
Hey, yeah.
he's just like, I want to take a picture with you, and then his mom took a picture with me, and then he was like, okay, we gotta go now, man, and then that's it. I was like, you don't want to like train? He's like, no, 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 we gotta go. I'm just like, what the hell, like,
We're kidding.
um, so, and since then, since the Manchester 24, and that wasn't even like a real like official. I just said I was going to a gym, right? I've had that same resounding kind of thing. Like especially like I mentioned before and prior podcasts in Mexico, people came up to me, and there's a point I'm saying this. People come up to me and they're just like, I don't have anything to say. I just want to say thank you, and can I like hug you? Can I hug you? And they'll like cry,
My gosh.
and to me, I don't, it was so hard for me to understand why sometimes. But in the moment, you're like, of course, right? But then once when you hear people explaining like what you stand, for me they'll tell me like what you stand for, and the way you hold yourself, and just the message you try to push really resonates with them, in these cases where people bring this up, and it's just something that hits deep for them. Again, it makes it's how they feel about it, and they just want to say thank you for being a good role model, essentially. And I've had that more than a few times, especially in the Philippines, and I'll get to that in a minute, because we just did our Philippines. I just did a Philippines tour. That was about 2 weeks long, probably the most tiring 2 weeks of my life, honestly.
Hmm.
Because like when I've traveled before, I go to competitions, I do events, I do media, I do all these things, right? But the Philippines tour was a constant get back to the hotel, sleep as much, sleep for a little bit, get up, we're gonna go fly somewhere, we're gonna go take a road trip somewhere, because we ended up doing I think 6 or 7 different gyms in total across the country of the Philippines. Um,
Damn.
yeah, and at the end we held a like a bench meet that I guest lifted in. Hmm.
What? Okay, do we? Okay, look at. I got a
Yeah, there's a
million
lot.
questions.
There's a lot. There's a lot. Yeah.
We got a lot to unpack. The journey itself, the time zone difference, the journey itself is a journey. But even I like you got to walk me through all of it, and I love that it ends with a meet, so we have a good end at the end for you to talk about
Right.
as
Yeah.
well, and just the reception of you because your background is
Yeah.
from the Philippines. So for them, who doesn't have a lot of people like from the Philippines at Worlds, for you to look like them, have a last name like them, have that and be like, that's one of ours. And for you to come, it must have been and hit that many gyms and then have a meet in Lifton. It must have been, my man. You got to walk us through this, but this is good, man.
Yeah. And you know, overall, like before I get into it, it was such a successful event. Like I don't think I could have asked more from myself, from the team that worked on it, everyone who was involved, and the people that showed up too. Like, because every single event, because the we went during we went rather late September, and it's supposed to be kind of leaving wet season, but we happened to catch a typhoon while we were there, so it was very wet, and a lot of people got
Mm.
flooded in. And every single event, we had someone message like, "Oh, we can't make it. We can't make it." And it's unfortunate because right, and there's nothing you can really do about that. But we saw a great turnout on all of these. I think we held a total of four, maybe five meet and greets. I can't remember off the top of my head anymore. And I had two bench seminars. So yeah, so I get there, get to the Philippines. Um, first first day, this is a big deal. This is one of the big ones. First day, I land. I slept on the plane a little bit, took a nap, woke up, get in a car, get to my hotel, 1 hour break, and then okay, we have to go drive somewhere. Hour and a half
Give
drive.
perspective. Give perspective, because this is crazy. What's the time zone difference, and how long was that flight?
It's
Because
about
that's nuts.
16 hour time difference for me. Yeah, and um, yeah, and
That's crazy.
yeah, it's like one of the furthest you can get. Yeah. So
That's,
California, the Philippines, Manila, direct flight from San Francisco. It's about a 12-hour flight.
mm,
Land. It's 16 hours ahead from where I am. So I left Monday. I left Monday, and I land there Wednesday. I want you to think about it that way. I land there.
and it's like a totally
Yeah,
different time of day,
yeah, yeah,
but it's not. It's
yeah.
that's crazy.
So I land
Yeah.
there Wednesday morning. So day one, Wednesday morning, after all that travel. Okay, we check in the hotel in the morning. Traffic's crazy. It's Manila's known, the Philippines rather, but Manila's known for its traffic. Uh, and first day, okay, chill in the hotel. Got to go drive an hour and a half somewhere. We end up going to Highland Diaz's. She had a short film they made for her for Lako. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Heidelin. She's the Philippines' first Olympic gold medalist for weightlifting.
Oh wow.
Hmm. So
Okay.
she's a big deal there. She's like a national hero there. And even to me, because
Okay.
she's someone I look up to for so many years, and I didn't realize we were around the same age. We're actually around the same age, so I kind of like watched her over the years. She did, she did Rio, she did Tokyo, I believe. I think Tokyo is
Mm,
where she won. I think Tokyo 2020 it was right. Um, so she's essentially a national hero next to Manny Pacquiao, right? Um,
right.
She's yeah, because you hear her on the radio, you see pictures of her. She's on like coffee, instant coffee packs, like her face.
Whoa, whoa,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, we're talking. She's legit a national treasure.
exactly. She's the real deal, right? Real deal, right? So we go to her. I was invited out to attend one of her, like it was a short private screening. There's news there, there's media, and there's a bunch of lifters, all her lifters. So it was very really cool. I got to watch it. Really, really like. It gave me an idea, and this was very interesting. It gave me an idea of what she stood for, and it was very, very. I had very strong parallels because she's very community driven, and I instantly was like, wow, this is great, right? It's just like it's really cool to and nice to see and hear that, right? And I'll get into how community driven she is in a little bit, but so I got to meet her. We had a good, we had some nice chats, and she was fantastic. She was really nice, really really sweet, really has a good team around her. And later in the trip, we actually I go visit her at a like a weightlifting academy she has. It's over in it's literally it's away from the city and basically in the middle of the jungle, off road, right? And she's taking in a bunch of kids there, and like man, I don't know if you saw that post, but I can get into it. But that's probably before I get into like the meet and greets, the bench seminars, and the bench meet itself, and the whole Philippines in general. That going to her weightlifting academy and seeing all the kids she's taking in, because I believe the head counts. It's a lot. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to give like numbers or anything, but there's a lot of kids there. There's a lot, and the majority are they're young, and they come from hard homes and hard backgrounds, right? And It's the real deal. Like like if those kids weren't there, they'd be on the street for sure, right? And just going there was probably one of the biggest highlights, not just of the trip, but maybe my life, honestly. Just because I got to,
What does it look like? Just so I can visualize. It's like a she has a facility. Do those kids like sleep there, or they just have a place to go
I
so they're
believe them.
busy? And
I believe the majority of them do live there,
oh
and then
man,
she takes care of them.
Greg!
Mhm. So there's a
Wow,
nice main building where they train. There's like an outer area like set up where there's more areas to train, and then there's like a lodging area as well.
the heck?
Um, and just because I watch these kids train because I think basically they if they're there they have to weight lift and just I spent the day and I just for fun I was learning how to do some weightlifting as well.
How'd
Um,
that go?
it's I'm terrible, right? But it was great. It was fun. And actually, that was actually probably the first snatch and clean and jerk I've ever done. Like honestly,
Really? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I did it in football, but that doesn't really count. That's like that's those aren't real. Like there's no technique
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but just seeing the kids, and I think I just have. I think most people, and I can speak for myself, but like I have such a soft spot for kids because they're the future. There's kids are just when you look at kids, all you see is potential, right? Or all should see and hopefully is potential. It should be potential and hope is when you see kids. And man, it was just I can't even like it's hard to articulate because it was just like you just see like these kids come from such hard backgrounds and they're just lifting weights together and then you see them smiling and laughing with each other but like you could tell when someone's coming from hard something they have a
Like,
hard
what are we
background, right?
talking? What are we talking when we say hard background? Because some people might not fully comprehend
uh
what Philippines hard
yeah,
background would mean.
so Philippines is a hard country, and if you're not familiar, it's basically for these kids the as far as I was told and as far as I know, majority either orphaned or come from very, very I don't want to speak for it, but it's just hard families. But and some are orphaned, as far as I know. Um, so yeah, and living in the Philippines, I mean, it's difficult. It's not a developed, it's not as a developed country as you would want it to be, right? And so you add that, and then you put kids on the street, and then
Mm.
it's not a good mix, right? You end up turning into drugs or whatever you need to live, right? So just for these kids to be able to seeing them being able to have this opportunity, and I was saying like maybe even in 10 years they're not lifting, maybe they're not here anymore, but they're always going to remember this what they have here, and maybe it's you never know who they end up might being. They might they could be the person who fucking cures cancer,
Mm.
um, because someone was kind enough to give them a life, right? Um, so yeah, yeah. Since we're already on the topic, I'll talk about it. So I went there and actually surprised Heidelin, and I donated a little bit of money to them. I kept it as like a SPD gift card essentially. Uh, and man, it was just like I'm kind of jumping here, but that was probably the major thing because I donated close to around 1,000 US um, um, to them to the kids, right? And we were speaking about currency right before this, right? And the currency exchange in the Philippines, right, currently is one US dollar is 58 and 60 cents, 58 point and a half pesos there, right? So it goes very, 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 very far, extremely far. The US dollar is extremely strong there. So, um, when we presented the that check to the kids, this is probably something that's going to be burned in my brain forever. and I'm very thankful that something, I get good memories burned into my brain versus a lot of times people get bad memories, right? People end up burning bad memories a lot of times because it's so traumatic, but this is one of those memories that's going to be burned into my for the rest of my life for a good reason. As soon as we showed them that, kids, there's innocent, they just have this innocence of reacting, and they all start. I see their faces light up. They start cheering. They start jumping. And you know me, I'm very emotional. Right? Well, it's in a good way, right? I feel like. But the very, very first thing one of the kids said after they did cheering, he said, "We can finally get our own singlets."
Mm.
And I'm just like, I was already like trying not to cry while I was there, but like, man, I was, and that's exactly what I hope for in the sense of like, what if I can give back, I will, right? And I found myself in a position where I could, so I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna give back, right? And like I don't know like, and I don't know any of them. I'm not even close to Heidelin. I just met her, but I understood like coming in, and I had this plan prior to the trip too. And but coming in, I learned about what she was doing, and it was just something I really resonated with, and I wanted to just help as much as I could, right? And I thought that was I thought that was a fair amount without being inappropriate or anything, right? Um, and there's even one of the girls, she was deaf, completely deaf, and they had to sign to her what was happening, and she was like signing like thank you to me, and I was like, bro, I can't like all the kids just came up to me like thank you, and it's hard to put into words, man, but like it's something I've always wanted to, and I want to continue doing. It just so happens this is like my home country, and so I really, really, really resonate with it, right? Because I kept seeing myself and people I know and the kids, especially when you go to a country that's in your blood, right? Um, I saw a kid that reminded me of me when I was a kid. I was just like, fuck, if I could give this kid the world, I would, So fuck, it's even making me emotional thinking about it. It's just like reminiscing on it right now. And then that was just like 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks ago at this point. But man, that's an experience. And, I sat around that whole day. We were at the facility at Heidelin's facility. I got to talk to her and her husband on a more personal level about stuff about, I even got to talk to them about powerlifting and weightlifting, the parallels. We have to bridge those gaps between our barbell sports, they're sister sports at the end of the day, right? And I got that, I learned things from them about what's, things that happen, things they have to deal with in the weightlifting side, you know, just like how we have our things we have to deal with on our powerlifting side. That's always, no matter what sport, there's always going to be something, right? And I actually had Highland, so I bring this notebook. So the SPD notebook I bring, and I love that. I'm so happy that this has become a thing. So I bring this notebook, and I have people that I meet write in it at these events because I find that very profound. Physical writing, and physically being there are things that we know hold we hold on to.
Mm.
So I actually had Highland write in this, and it was really interesting because she got really into it. She wrote like two, maybe even 3 pages in here. I haven't gotten around
My
to,
gosh.
yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. She sat there and just like was just you just let them think and write. Like I was like, I'm not in a rush. Just do what you want, do what you got to do. And this book's pretty much filled now. It's about 90% filled. Like I said, I brought to Mexico, I brought to Malaysia, and I brought to the Philippines. I tried to get as many people to write in it. Um, and upcoming trips in the future that will happen. I'm going to continue because I got another one. Actually, I actually got another SPD book. The Philippines had one, so I have a fresh book because this one's pretty much all done. Um, but yeah, people write a lot of things because the question I asked them to write in this is your name, where you're from, write a message to me if you want. But the main thing is write something that you would tell your younger self. And you've written in this, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Right? Yeah,
That's
you've
right.
written in
I
this.
have.
And I brought this in Worlds, Germany, Chemnitz. I had some of your favorite world champions have written in this, you know, and it's just a keepsake for me. And I think one of the biggest things it reminds me, and it should remind, hopefully, right, and it should remind us that we're all human. Even the Olympic gold medalist, she's human, and I think a lot of times a lot of people don't want to see that because they want to put someone on a pedestal, right? But at the same time, that's not fair to them. Like, yeah, they can be these great athletes and these great, do these great things, but just remember, we're all human. Even me doing this is all human, right? Um, but I got to spend the day and kind of talk to them and learn more about how they operate. And I was just very, I was just very, I can't even put it into words. I was just so happy about what they do there. And especially like especially seeing the kids because I'm kind of going all over the place. But when we drove in, it's off the road. It's not even, it's literally, and you have to drive off road to get there. And we were worried about getting stuck because it had just rained, which we did get stuck, and I'll tell you about that. Um, we pulled up to the place, and all the kids are in the window looking, and it's just like, yeah. But yeah, we got stuck in. We had a van that we rented, and it was a big van, about 8 of us in the van, and all of our tours. We were driving our tour stuff all around the country, basically, and we got stuck in the mud. And I was like, "Oh, sweet!" So I got out, and we pushed it. We pushed it out of the mud. So yeah, I've been waiting. They have the footage, and it was fun. But I was able to me and some of the guys at the camp were able to push it out. So that was fun. So
So
that's just one of the days. We had 15 days of stuff. So
I mean, even to start off like that, like my initial reaction when you had already flown for a day, so there was 12 hours there, and then 16 hours on top of that from time zone,
hmm,
just like that, it's gone. So how messed up you'd be, your circadian rhythm, and how
yeah.
tired you would be, and then you hit the ground running like, all right, you got it, you good in an hour because we're hitting the road again, and we're gonna go to this, and then,
So
but as soon as you get there,
yeah,
you
that
just
was later.
relay.
That was a little bit later in the trip. But
Okay, 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 okay.
but the first day was that's when I met her. But then I visited her and the group of basically a few days later. So same thing. We were still
Mm,
tired.
mm,
Um,
mm. I'm
but
so
yeah,
happy you linked up with her.
yeah, it was
How
really
easy
cool.
was it to hook that up? How easy was it to reach
Um,
out and
I think just fortunately the person who helped organize this whole event, she's with SPD Philippines. Shout
mm,
out to Esme and her group. They were able to just I think they're friends basically, so she was able to just kind of get that connection there. So
man?
and yeah, and I think in general, I think and they have to be. I think they're very protective of Heidelin because you got to be. And so I could tell they were like, "Oh, is this guy cool?" So I'm just happy, and I hope that I left a good impression in whatever way I could, especially for the kids, right? Because um, I could talk all day on that, but just I hope the kids remember that. I hope they remember how they felt there because that seeing the kids. I mean, like when you see kids like happy, but when you see a group of like 30 kids jump with joy and they're all thanking you, and it's just like just because you were born here, this just like life's hard for you, just because of
Mm.
circumstances, and that's just an unfortunate thing about life sometimes. But I think they're doing what they can with what they have, so and that makes me happy. So
And when you like, did they ask you some of your lifting numbers? One thing that does cross over. Obviously, Olympic lifting, powerlifting are different. And I don't know if they like follow powerlifting or whatever, but the squat. And when you tell them, like, were they asking you? Were the kids
yeah,
asking
yeah,
you
yeah,
how
yeah,
much
yeah,
do
and
you
they're like,
squat? Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, and some of
yeah,
them actually,
yeah.
some of the older ones actually follow me. Mhm.
Whoa, kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so Ian, shout out to Ian. He just the weekend after I visited, he actually flew out to somewhere I forget where in Asia. I think it was in Kuala Lumpur. They had their junior worlds, and he competed, and he broke
Oh, wow.
the I think it was the snatch record he broke. the world record snatch. Crazy
Damn.
strong kid. Crazy.
So he's
Yeah, he's the real
legit,
deal. He's
legit.
the real deal.
Yeah,
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 he's the real
yeah.
deal. And he wrote in my book. We were chatting, and he was just asking me for advice, and we had good talks. Just like and after he broke the record, he did this, and he was like, "That was for you."
Really? Dude,
Yeah,
imagine this kid ends up in the Olympics. It would be
yeah,
crazy to
yeah,
watch him.
yeah,
Imagine he ends
yeah,
up there. That's crazy.
yeah. Yeah, man. As soon as he broke, I saw him do this, and he
That's
messaged me.
awesome.
He was like, "Yeah, that was for you, man." And I was
That's
like, "Fuck, bro."
amazing.
Yeah, I was like, "Fuck, bro." But just yeah, he's been training there. I think pretty much his whole life, and he's yeah. So
Really? At that camp that she runs
well, like
open
just
for
I think that camp is a little newer, maybe a few years old now, but I think he's been under Heidelin for a long time. Heidelin and Julius, the coach. Um, so
so he would be like a success story then, obviously,
oh
with
yeah, oh yeah, he already is, and because I think he just got sponsored by the one of the coffee companies there, which is coffee is huge in the Philippines, so it's a big deal. Um,
hmm,
yeah, so it's really cool. It makes me really happy for him. Um, I need to read his entry because he wrote a lot. I think he's been on like 4 pages in there. He sat there writing for like forever. Yeah.
man, I got to double back in there, man. I give you a little something, but it wasn't 4 pages. Like, holy smokes.
And that's what's cool about this. I want people, especially like, okay, maybe I see you sometime later next year or sometime. I hand you the book, and we're gonna find what you wrote. Well, I want you to write again. I want you to look back at what you wrote. I think that's where a
Yeah.
lot of I think that's where it could become little extra powerful for some people. Maybe 5 years down the road. Hey, let's look back at what you wrote. You know,
I
because you might not even
yeah.
remember. You're not gonna remember. You
No,
know,
you won't. I'm not even entirely
yeah,
sure.
what you did
I
right.
think
Yeah.
I know. I think what I said was something along. You know what? Let me reread it. Let me reread it. I
Yeah, yeah. We'll
know.
get. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's interesting because you said like people don't necessarily remember what you said or did, but they remember how you made them feel. And um I know I've told you like face to face after Sheffield when you were initially saying you're going to take some time off and you weren't sure if you were like what that would mean, how much time, etc. And and then obviously you came back and have done everything you've done. And then I think I put something in there along the line, same thing I said to you when you told me that if I live to be 100, I will never forget you. The conversations we've had, and like I was there for all your moments as well. Like I helped narrate your story. Like the linkage is, I mean, I could never forget. And then after I've helped narrate your story with some of your biggest moments, um, to have then hopped on this podcast and then have the conversations we've had. I mean, I could live to be 1,000 and never forget these moments. It's I'll never forget you. And I think I reiterated that in your book. But and on that 5 years could pass and I'd stand on that. But next time I got to write something else.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. So such an impactful trip, right? And well, I haven't even gone to the meet and greets and the bench seminar, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I'll just run through that. The first day, first meet and greet we flew down to Davao, and we went to one of the gyms. Great reception. I want to say around 25 people showed up, 30. It was a fair amount. And that we do meet and greet. They come up, all the shabam. You sign stuff, you talk, you ask questions, and it's just always the same. It's just always. I mean, every trip is unique, like I mentioned, but it's always the same. Like some people are just too starstruck to ask, but that's what they say. But you always get what I always end up hearing is someone's just like, and I don't know if we were recording when I talked about that, right? But someone came up to me and they're just like, I just want to hug you, bro. And
Mm.
and during these meet and greets, I'll talk about the key points of like things people said that kind of stick with me. In the Philippines, so this was recent. During this trip, someone came up to me. He said, and this was eerily similar to something in the Philippines. Eerily similar to something that someone said to me in Mexico, rather. And he said, I have nothing for you to sign. I have nothing to ask. I just want to tell you something that I've been wanting to tell you, right? And
Hmm.
that's the exact same like preface in the Mexico happened. And I was like, oh shit, what the like deja vu almost, right?
Yeah.
And he said, thank you for leaving the world a better place than you found it. And in the moment you're just like, oh, hey, I appreciate that, man. Thank you much, But then when you like think about it and you have time to yourself to like dwell, to kind of like process it, and you're just like, fuck, dude, like, maybe I do have some type of impact on people more than or as much as I'd like to have, right? And it's very powerful, I feel like, especially going in person, like we mentioned. We can just being in person and leaving a positive impact is such a powerful way of like giving back in a sense, right? Of just like being there and like I'm not even on my phone. I'm literally there hours just talking to people, like just talking to every single person, the gym owners, the people coming in, people who have no idea what this is, you know. Um, I'm just like we're in the gyms. I'm walking around the streets. People come up, I talk to them. Um, and it's just a fantastic opportunity that I try to really take in full hand, right? And I think I do. I hope I do well. I hope I leave a positive impression, and the reception always tells me I do. And that makes me very happy and optimistic and hopeful. So fuck, man.
Difficult? Like, do you feel like when you put yourself in these scenarios and these people come and for them it's a big moment. They weren't anticipating somebody coming over from the US. The travel's insane. For that, it's like so remote and out of the way and not where you would expect powerlifting to be in these pockets like that. So when you show up, first off, it's impactful for you. Like, oh my gosh, it's stunning that people would care to show up, right? It's like you had said. But then how do you feel in terms of like what their impression and like do I have to live up? Do I have to say something big? Do I have to like how does that feel for you on your end?
Yeah, I've always thought about stuff. I think about stuff like that all the time, and I think what makes it easy for me is I just kind of have to be myself, and that's what Nina tells me. And I think that's what like the people who help organize this and everything, and all the people who've been a part of this, and the future ones that we're talking to as well. I think what makes it so good is that I'm very organic, or it's just how I am, right? I just kind of like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I really do, And if you like, and I, it's just I just have to be myself, and I just hang out, I just talk to people like they're human. I think a lot of people like I'm not putting myself above you, I'm not putting myself below you. We're we're both just people here, eye to eye, right? And I think a lot of people really appreciate that, and because no one wants to be talked down to, no one wants to, like no one wants those weird like dynamics, right? And
Hmm.
you know, I even went on the radio when I was there. I went on live radio. Yeah.
Really? So well, first off, before we go on to that, I want to talk about that. It's cool you've been doing all this. But I think if you had to put on a persona for social media, which some people do, God bless, it is what it is. You can kind of tell when people are a little extra for social media. When you do these things, it's a whole lot more awkward because you're stuck in between. Do I be myself and break kayfabe, if you will? Do I are they showing up because they want that social media guy? So
Right.
maybe I
Right.
owe them that. Maybe
Right.
I owe them it, or whereas for you, it's a lot easier because you're like, I'm just me through and through. Whether I'm on a podcast, if I make a post or whatever the heck, it's the same guy. So the pressure isn't quite as there. I'm just good like to Nina's point, just show up, be yourself. That's what they're looking for. You
Yeah.
don't got to try to find the words all the time. Just
Right.
show up, be present, start talking. They'll talk, and you'll find it anyways. But yeah, how did the radio thing happen?
So they happen to be in the same building as one of the meet and greets of the gyms that we were going to, and it's like one of the major radio stations because so I was broadcasted to like, so there's these things called jeepneys. Do you know what that is?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. So in the Philippines, there's a thing called a jeepney, right? And it's basically like a little bus that holds maybe like 10, 12 people, 15 if it's a bigger one. So they're like mini buses, right? and that's like one of the main routes of transportation. So you have those, but then you have like a fuck ton of them on the road.
Mm,
So it's just like and so that's what like so people play it on the radio, and so I was able to kind of speak to the general public there, and I was able to kind of they asked who they're like, oh, they kind of knew who I was. They're like, what are you doing here with the tour? And I just spoke for powerlifting, and like the same thing, I push for powerlifting, push, like, and obviously I understand it's like, it's hard when sometimes, like I can't ask someone who's like worried about what their next meal is going to be to go work out. That's,
right.
that's not a thing. But to those who can, and those are in the position that, you can look after your health, try to do it. Try to find that, trying to find that. And I was able to really advocate for not just the sport, but for general health and wellness as well. And that was a good like 25-minute segment, 20, 25 minutes, yeah, where he asked me questions about the sport. He asked me questions about myself. He asked me fun questions. So it was really good.
And this is like mainstream radio
Radio.
over there.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
See what happens when you show up? Doors open.
Yeah. It's different.
How many times I
Yeah.
tell people, you got an opportunity to travel somewhere, be a part of something, show up. You don't know what else is going to piggyback
Yeah.
on top. Just hang out there for a minute. Stick around after you're done. Do doors open. Just like happened right there for you.
Yeah. 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 And, it's such, you know, it's such a hard country to live in. I think one of the biggest things, and like it reminds me how spoiled we are here in the US. And like one of the biggest things I found when I got back home, I'm kind of jumping around, but when I got back home, one of the biggest things I found myself like really thankful for was toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and flushing, toilet paper and flushing, because the majority is just like a bucket, and I don't, and even then I don't fit in majority of the restrooms that were available, just because I'm just like big. Mm.
Okay, listen. Okay, so um my girlfriend Tao, born and raised in Australia, background Vietnamese. She goes to Vietnam. Much like yourself, you go to the Philippines, and the story she's told me, you don't know how good we have it over here. Your worst day to them sounds like you're living like a king.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
royalty. They would die for that. Your worst day is paradise to them.
yeah.
When we picture what it would be like to win the lottery, they picture your life.
Every day.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
And when I got
And
back home, I was just like, I have everything. I was because I'm already good about, that perspective and being grounded about stuff like that. And obviously I understand there's these things in the world. That's how
mm,
it is, right? But it's different when you go there, you see it, you talk, you hear it, you smell it, you feel it. It's different. And especially coming back as an adult to the Philippines and just like experiencing that, because like one of the big ones to me, there's just like, for example, there's so many stray cats and stray dogs out and about, and one of the days, we had to actually drive through the typhoon, right? The typhoon hit and we had to drive to it to get to one of the meet and greets. And it was actually, it was funny because it's not funny, but I was like, oh shit, this is kind of dangerous because it was like we're in a big van, it's getting pushed around, it's hard to see what's in front of us, and I'm just like, we're all just tired sitting there, you know. And sometimes when you drive through the cities and the little like outskirts, you see the strays just swimming because it's all flooded, and you
mm,
see it for a second, and you're just like, I want to help that dog, but I know there's nothing I can do for it, you know. And you see it over and over, and this like every stray I ran into, I try to give it scraps. Every homeless, like someone, like a kid, like there was like beggars and stuff. Kid would come up to me, tap me on the shoulder, and I'd give him something. I'd give him some money, you know. And then I was almost every day in the trip, I would give him some change. I'd see someone give him change, and it's just hard, to see that. I mean, and obviously, and you know about it, but it's different when you're sitting there and they talk to you and you see it, and that's like because like a dollar, like if I give them $1, that could feed them for like that could feed them for for fucking like 2 days, or. or even more. You can argue. Um, so um,
Or
yeah, it's
just to add to that, like it puts in perspective the difference in terms of how tougher it is when a typhoon when it rains, it's a typhoon and there's flooding and you could lose like the your house is not a house like ours. You could lose everything. And when they see stray dogs literally and cats trying to swim against current for their lives, that's what it is, huh? How often
yeah,
you see that? And that's a heartbreaking Instagram reel you might scroll past, but that's day-to-day life they just walk past. And that's just Tuesday. And
yeah,
for us, it's like, oh my God. And and you that's your reality. That's what it
yeah,
is. You go to the washroom, that's where you're at. This is it's different. It's tough. That's why when I found out you went there, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have some. You'll change. You'll impact people and change things for them, but it's also going to change you, and you'll never forget. They'll never forget, but you won't either,
yeah.
and it'll change you moving forward too.
And I think that's where a lot of the beauty comes from these types of things I try to do. Because it's not like when I do these events, I never make it about myself. Obviously I'm going there, but I try to make it about people. I try to make it about this sport, the space that people can come in and they can, try this sport, try it out, try lifting some weights. And, because, and I guess I guess it doesn't matter if I jump around, but like at the bench meet. So at the end of the event, we held a bench meet, right? And, the venues, typically they're like venues, you have it like we're here or there, right? Venues, especially in Asia and especially the Philippines, you hold meets at malls, like at like malls where people walk around. So that's where the bench meet was, and it was like a 3-story mall, big mall, and there's
Really,
a lot of people was
that's
just
actually
stop.
pretty cool because you get
Yeah,
a lot of foot traffic. That's
you get a
actually
lot of
pretty
foot. Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it was a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic because what I ended up benching 227, which is the
Nice,
heaviest bench ever done in the Philippines on like Philippine soil, right? So,
nice.
and there was a lot, just so many people. Like like I like the crowd came, like when I came in, the crowd was like cheering, you know, and like people would swarm me, you know. That's why I had my
So
that's why I had
you're
my
fluent in
security.
Filipino.
Was that? Tagalog?
You're fluent.
Uh,
You,
I can't. Well, I could. I, I understand. I understand.
okay, okay, okay,
I've just never had to like speak, but I understand pretty well. I actually held up pretty well
okay.
while I was there.
So when you're on the radio, were you speaking what language?
English. I spoke English. Yeah.
Okay, 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 okay. Do
Mhm.
is English common there then?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very
Oh,
very
okay,
common. Yeah, it's super common.
okay. Gotcha. Okay. So sorry, you said you showed up with security and everything.
Hmm. Yeah, and I needed it because I was getting swamped. I was getting swamped.
What?
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
seriously.
yeah,
So um man, we gotta back up a second because this is
yeah,
crazy. This is crazy. So who organized the bench meet? It's in a freaking mall. Who organized the security? When you showed up, are you blown away? Like, really? Are you sure that's necessary? And then when you show up and they react the way they react, tell me about the reaction. And then were you like, oh my God, this doesn't happen back home in America? And were they just why do you think he reacted like that? Because you are coming from afar and they're like, oh my God, he's an American who's here, and but he looks like us. He's got our last name. He's, and uh, walk me through this because this is very interesting.
So it's interesting. Cayco is actually a really uncommon name. It's not even
Is it
like,
okay? Okay.
yeah, like uh, we actually have my family. We actually have a street in the capital with the Cayco name.
Seen that.
Yeah,
Seen
yeah.
that.
But um, yeah, going into the bench meet, like I walked in and just people start like screaming. Some people start like running up and then like at first I'm like, oh yeah, like I'll just say what's up, right? But then if I say well, yes to one, then you have to say yes to like 100, right? So we had to like kind of push people off, and then we were like, yeah, just wait until after the event. And but it was an experience because even on the street I was getting stopped too. So
What?
yeah.
So they knew you were coming then? They must have been, was this
Oh yeah. So,
announced ahead of
so
time?
the
And
so the bench meet, yeah, that was the main thing is I'm going to be a part of this meet. I'm going to be benching. The main thing is you guys come lift with me. Like we're competing together. It's fun, right? It's just like a fun
that's
community
awesome.
event. You know,
Yeah.
and people loved it. It was a full meet, 38 lifters. So it was a fair size
Rigged.
meet. You know,
Yeah.
and I gave out awards afterwards. I gave out medals. They had like I had the talk because the news was there. It was live streamed, obviously. I did an interview for a media outlet there.
The
Um,
news showed up.
yeah, so and it's the same thing. I'm talking powerlifting. Do this sport. Do this. Try it out. Look how many people were brought together here. People were watching from all up the different levels. It was really cool. It was
What?
really
Dude.
yeah.
Tell
People
me you
were
got
very
video.
engaged. Yeah,
Tell
we
me
have.
you
Oh
got
yeah, we
video.
yeah we've been posting videos, and there's another. There's so much like footage and content from this event that they're still pushing some out that I have to keep like
I
collaborating
I
with.
need I need like a fuller length um docu style. It can't be less than
Right.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
I need you at the Olympics village. I need you at the mall. This is crazy. I need the security, the whole nine. Sorry, keep going. This is wild.
Yeah, and um, it it was cool because the entire audience was so engaged, and there's so many people watching. Few hundred, I feel at one point, and like with the mall and stuff, just general foot traffic too,
Mm,
kind of watching. But it was just such a good experience, and everyone had fun. I think that was the major thing. Everyone was just like, people signed up. I just want to lift. I just want to say that I had lifted with you. You know.
mm.
Um, Again, recurring thing. Like I gave out medals, I gave out prizes afterwards. Um, and here's one story. So I gave out a medal. A guy, older gentleman, comes up. I think he's a master lifter. Um, and he comes up, and I see him. He's like shaking with like joy. Like I don't know if he's nervous but he's holding his cross. And he's just like he comes up to me and he like hugs me. He's like, "Thank you, Lord. This is the most blessed day of my life, letting me meet Jonathan." And it's just like
How do you react to that, Jonathan?
you,
What
you,
does that mean?
there's I can't. There's no words I can really do. All I can do is just like hug him and just be like, "Thank you, all I can say is thank you so much for
Mm.
everything. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being so kind and just all the support, right?" And um, it- and I'll try and jump through the meet and greets as I remember through them, but so many people were like that. They come up and they're just like, yeah, just just thank you, bro. Like I just like love who you are, and like you helped me through dark time. You helped me through tough times. Just who you are, your message, because you lead by example is what I hear a lot. You lead through example. We know you have struggles. You've been open about it. We know, like even like physically, my scar, I'm missing abdominal muscle. I'm behind in this, I started behind in the sense of like physical strength, you know,
Mm.
and there's like we see it, and it's really nice. And again, the word powerful comes to mind. It's just that people resonate with that and they feel that, and I see a lot of like I want to say like 80% of the people who come up to me in these events, I could tell they're coming up and they don't give a like yeah, it's cool that I'm strong, but they don't give a fuck about that. They're just like, we love you, and we want um and we love, this is how you make us feel is and what you stand for. Just and that's just like where it hits home for me because I'm just like, okay, cool, I'm doing something. I'm doing something right, and that's how I want people to feel because I want to be able to lead by example. I don't want to just say it. I want to lead by example in the sense of just like, yeah, like we can do this. We can do this. And especially in a place like the Philippines, and every place I've went, I try to speak to the community leaders. I try to speak to the people of the federations. What's wrong? What like how's the architecture here of that? Why, how do we grow the sport? There needs to, like, what are the incentives? What are all these things? So I try to keep it productive in the sense of, of the people, but then who's in charge too? Like, what can we talk about? Same thing in Mexico. We had a little bit of those conversations. Same thing in Malaysia. And wherever I go, I really want, those are like serious conversations I try to have, because you can't grow a sport unless there's someone who wants to grow it, right?
Mm.
And so, and on top of that, the people who want to grow it, hopefully they give a fuck and they care and have some integrity at the same time, right? Especially
Hmm.
especially when a sport is newer and is very easily taken advantage of, and we see that so much through the history of powerlifting so far, and um, I just want to create that environment to where, maybe morally I shouldn't be doing X, Y, Z, right? Or ethically even, right? And so I think it's back to the bench me. It's so like resounding. There's so many words I can use, because like like I signed someone's like, I don't know. I probably signed hundreds of pieces of like thousands at this point with my signature on it, and I signed someone's like wrist straps or something during the meet, and they just start screaming, and they're just like how like a like you when you think of like fans,
Yeah.
they're screaming like look, like top of their lungs, you hear like echo across the mall, and it's just so incredible that I've found myself in a position to where I can do these things, right? And I'm always like, okay, how can I do it better? How can I level it up in a sense? How can I, without being stupid, right? And each of these events are getting bigger and bigger. And I know the Philippines one, we're already in the talks for another one because it was such a good reception. Like obviously, like we've been saying, and there's so many other cities we want to hit, and other countries we want to go to as well. But man, did I answer the questions about the bench meet? I think that was all of them, right? It's just
I was going to ask you also, okay, do you think it would be as impactful you showing up if that wasn't your background and you weren't Filipino, or do you, because you're coming from America, do you think the fact that you're Filipino, the impact for them to see you at the world stage and to have
yeah,
seen you in all these battles against these famous, whether it's Americans, Europeans, and all these people, and they took you in, even though you're American, they took you in still like that's still one of ours.
yeah, yeah, and
Really? Yeah.
and that's one of the big things. And like when you come in, you never know how you're going to be received. Like Mexico, I'm not Mexican, but I go in and they love me. I got welcomed in like because I I grew up with the Mexican culture around me. Most of my friends are Mexican. It's just been something I've always lived with, you know. And going there and just being accepted, it was great. Same thing in Malaysia. I came in, they're like, "Oh wow, thank you for visiting." But it was very different going, and I was that was one of the question marks that I had. It was like, okay, like I'm Filipino, but I'm not from the Philippines, right? So, but when I came, it became very clear that didn't matter. No one cared. They just sort of, and I just felt so welcomed, and there was a sense of familiarity is the word I kept using while I was there, because you see, especially when you go to places like where where your blood is, um, I see my grandma when I see a little old lady walking.
Mm.
There was this little kid. There was this kid at the airport, and I stopped because it looked like me when I was a kid. I stopped and
Mm.
pointed, and like I was like, Nina, look. And she was like, "What the?" And she was like, "Wow, what the hell?" No, so you see that, you
Yeah.
know, and it's different. Like, and I see my aunts when these titas come up to me, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Oh, it's a funny story. That reminds me. When we were in Davao, we were like in a shop like after everything at night. And we were just like, it was like a little shopping strip ish outside area, like night market area. And one of our guys was just recording with like a little like on the go recorder, whatever what's the word for that. But one of the people were like, "Oh, is this who? What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Oh," they told them who I was, and they all got on. Everyone like got on their phone and like looked me up, and the whole like night market was like, "Oh my god!" And they all like came up to me. People came off out of their areas and started taking pictures with me. The owner of the place came out. They gave me gifts, you know, and
Mm.
so it's just so humbling, and I've uh, and just so grounding, and that's and just being accepted and welcomed so like wholeheartedly in full open arms, right? Um, so that was really cool. Um,
What an opportunity, Jonathan, that you're doing all this. There's some people, an athletic prime is only so big. And obviously with your impact even after your athletic prime closes, you because you're doing this during your athletic prime. And so many people around the world, not to go back to what we said earlier, I'm going to use Ali as a reference. I'm not trying to say like, that's a pretty big name to attach to you, but I'm just saying um, the reason why he'll be remembered and it'll be easy for him long after you're retired to continue to do seminars or do speaking engagements and tour around is because he did it while strike while the iron's hot and do these things now and don't wait. Like God bless, we hear names like, for instance, like a Jesse Norris. It's too late. Now he's not gonna swing around, do a global world tour or whatever. And this is where it is. Like right now is the moment. Go out there, do these things, meet the people, be engaging, hold seminars. Don't worry about is this making money or profit, or is my time being compensated, or do your thing. Go out there, live life, have moments, for nothing more than just having moments, for nothing more than just meeting people, and do all of this and capture it all in books, video, pictures, and the whole nine.
yeah,
And then when all this comes to a close, you'll be able to continue this and you'll be able to keep driving around and people will remember you because you did come around. You were, you could be a world champion and never toured the world. What a shame. If you're a world champion and you tour around the world, that's what it is. And there's so many people, I think, that when they hear this, like, don't miss the boat on this. Go out there and visit
yeah,
everything. You're living the life right now.
yeah, and something, and people message me all the time from the Mexico event, from the Malaysia event, like I mentioned, from Manchester, and even especially obviously from this Philippines trip, people like that was the best day of my life, bro. And like people, and I think it's just such a welcoming environment that I try to push. Because at one of the gyms, it was very like they kept it very traditional. They actually brought in a lot of food. And after the meet and
Hmm,
greet, we all ate inside the gym. We ate at the gym together. Everyone who was attended. Like we brought out some tables. We just sat around and ate.
that's
Yeah,
pretty
and we
cool.
and we it was funny because
Literally
I
break
was
bread.
yeah, and I literally people started benching, and I started doing like an impromptu bench seminar for I was just like that's just how I am. I just got up. I was like, okay, let's talk about bench, right? Um, Speaking of the bench seminars, those are great. I had people were engaged. Those are 3 hour things I do. I just sit there and talk, sit there and we talk about bench and what I know and what I've learned about bench through the years. I'm still learning about bench, right? And it's just very engaging. And so, I try to remember every single person I meet, and it I don't know, man. It's just like people tell me, and it's hard for me to believe, right? But enough people have told me, and I'm not gonna let it get to my head. But people tell me they're like, man, that was just what you stand for. That was just such the best day of my life, and it's gonna stick. Like I said, it sticks with them. It's gonna stick with them, and how powerful is that? Whatever gets them, whatever gets the person I meet, whatever gets them to get someone in lifting, their parent, their friend, saves their life. I might, I don't, I'll never even know that unless they tell me, obviously. But there are these ripple effects I may not ever even know, and may have happened already from these events, right? And that's where I find a little peace, and like I don't need to know these things. I don't need to know everything that the ripple effects that come, good or bad. Hopefully, mostly good, right? That comes with me going to these places and stuff. But if it if something like that happens, that's fantastic.
How did
So
these how did these bench seminars come about? Like in terms of these places, these gyms, you had a few different stops along the way, and these people showing up. Like, how did this get organized? Because yeah, you made the most of it. and some of it was off the cuff to be on the radio, and some of it's off the cuff, and you just get lucky being at the right place, right? And that's life because you showed up. But to show up, like, how did this come about? Because what a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, we just, I mean, at first we did the meet and greets, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but like, what if we did, what if people want more like exclusive, I guess, right? In the sense of just more one-on-one time. So okay, we'll just do like a bench seminar, you know,
Mm,
and those have been great. The one I held there at Kilos, Joyce and I believe they're married. Joyce and her husband. Um, they're big in the federation there. They help organize things. They opened a gym called Kilos Philippines over there, and it has all the Laco equipment. It's a beautiful facility.
nice,
I think it's a Laco sponsored. Yeah, it's actually Laco sponsored. And I held it
nice.
there, and and that was probably the best seminar I've done, because each seminar, every time you do something, you can be like, oh fuck, maybe I should have talked about this or whatever, right? But um, that was the best seminar I've ever done, and because not only do I talk a bench, I end up taking questions. We talk about life and philosophies, and just because how open I am, I end up like talking about some real stuff on my end. And people are, I start getting a little emotional. That's just how I am, right? I think it's important to be, like I said, I think there's a little bit of strength in finding a bit of vulnerability and honesty with yourself, or else you're just kind of bullshitting yourself, right? Like, oh no,
Mm,
I'm fine. If you're not fine, that's bullshit, and that's just in my eyes, that's being weak. Like, why not just be like, what if being strong means like, you know what? Hold up, let me like address this, right? And find the solution. And I think bottling shit up is like, I think that's the easy way of, I think that's a weak way of seeing it. It's just like, oh, I'm just gonna, yeah, I'll throw it to the side and I'm gonna be tough, right? That's just like that's not tough. Tough is figuring it out, you know?
mm.
And so on the seminar I'll talk to, and people, that's the thing, people are so open with me. I think that's the biggest thing that's a reoccurring theme. People come up to me, they ask me life advice, they ask me relationship advice, they ask me, it's like there's like here and there, there's your lifting, like, oh yeah, how do I do, how should I warm up, what about bench, what about squat, what about that? But people come up and they're like, hey man, like my parents are like, they don't like this that I do, would you be open to talk about, like,
Mm.
what's something I can do? I just want to, I want advice from you, and and I get that often, and it's so crazy to me how open people are, like I said, and just how willingly vulnerable people are when they speak to
Why
me.
why do you think that is? Because I think a lot of people who do bench seminars, and not everyone ends up, I mean, very few probably end up in conversations like that.
I think it's just the way it's just how I am. I think I make it very open and just welcoming. It's not, I feel like if you come up and ask me that, it doesn't seem weird. You know, it's like, oh, this is like, if there's someone I want to like, maybe I can ask about and just kind of be open with, and who won't give me bullshit, I should probably ask him. You know,
Mm.
and I think that just comes from just how I am and how my persona is in a way, right? And that's great, because and people message me afterwards and they're just like, hey man, I took your advice and it's been good, and they follow up. They follow up. People follow up with me all the time, and all the time people follow up with me. Hey man, like, it's been a year, and then I'm gonna get back into it. Like I waited because I was doing X. Life was doing this, and you told me to wait and just figure this out. Now I'm back. Thank you for the advice. And it's like a year later, you know.
Mm.
And I remember these conversations, and I think that's why I that's one of my strengths, I think. And and that's why I'm so happy to do these things, and I want to continue doing these types of events. So
Is it difficult to come home after something like that? The high it must be because your stimulation and the whole intaking of information and like from all of it sounds like out of a book, right? It's something very few people will ever intake. And is it difficult to go through all of that, then come back home to a normal day to day life?
Yeah, it's almost like doing a meet, and it's really that was probably, like I mentioned, that was the most tiring trip I've ever done in my life. 2 weeks every day. We slept only a little bit. Get up. We got to drive somewhere. Okay, we got to get back to the hotel. We got to get back to an Airbnb. We swapped hotels and Airbnbs like every other day. So we
Holy
were like,
smokes.
we were on the go. And some of the places we drove to was like 3 hours away, 5 hours away. So we were going places, and we would take naps in the car, pit stops, all this, um, driving through the floods, driving through the typhoon, and so yeah, to come back is it's nice, but you definitely have to. I'm still processing it, honestly. That's why I want. Well, that's why I wanted to talk about it ASAP. This is a perfect time because I've had time to kind of rest and kind of think about it at this point. But yeah, um, it was good. It was good.
What do you think is next for you then? What do you where else do you want to go and do these?
So without naming too many, I mean, Japan is one that we've been really interested in for a while. We were actually, it was in consideration to go to Japan right after this. And like after the 2 weeks, we would fly a week to Japan because we're right there already, right? But I'm glad we didn't do that because it
That's
was
because
already,
you would have
because
been smoked.
I was like, if I go to, like, if I, I don't want to be like tired going there. And, Singapore. I've like I mentioned, I have good relationship with the Singaporean team, and they're fantastic, and I'd love to visit Singapore. Um, like India, Qatar, and any most of Latin America. Latin America is one of my is because I've done two Asias now, back to back. So I'd like to go back to I'd love to go back to Mexico, Mexico City, and doing something through Latin America would be fantastic, like Chile, Brazil, or something. Um, and just yeah, man, it's just such a thing. Australia, actually, yeah, I forgot to mention, would be such a. It's just I can't even put it into words, man. I'm just yeah, man. And then, it's funny. I probably missed a few things here and there from this thing, but that was man, what a fantastic trip that was. And I just want to thank everyone who was a part of it. These it takes a village, bro. It takes such a village of people for especially like bigger events to happen. Um, like because we ran a meet at the end. We ran a whole. It was a bench only, but we still ran a meet. We
Yeah.
ran a meet. We did meet and greets. You had to, you had to rent out gyms. You have to go through like make sure I'm all like legally safe. All these, there's so many hurdles. Not just I can't just you don't just go somewhere and hey, I'm here. Besides that
Yeah.
one time in Manchester, that's different. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, that was still crazy how many people showed up there. A lot of those kids still message me. It's cool. Um,
Could have done a
and
seminar impromptu right there. All
yeah,
right, everybody, gather around.
yeah, but it's just so special doing what I do, and I'm just so grateful. Um, and yeah, man, here's to a better future. And man, there's like a number I have. The number I've had in mind for myself for like the past 2 years was 945. That's like the number I've had in my mind, and I'm just like I see it, and like I had an idea of it, and but like I smell it now. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
you know what I
It's
mean?
around the
Yeah, yeah,
corner.
yeah. It's like I smell it now, like because I'll like literally nothing has to change besides I have to like do. I just have to squat a little more, which is funny, which is kind of funny because my push pull, my bench and deadlift already, they're already there because I'm good for like an 800 pull. I'm sorry we were wrapping up. I'm just kind of talking here now,
No, no,
but
keep going.
yeah, I'm good for an 800 pull. I was good for 800 at Nats. I'm even much better. I'm like probably low 800s at this point. Um, I want to load 573 on bench before I compete. That'd be sick. But I don't know. Like it seems like I have to wait for my bench meets. Or rather, I have to wait for the meets because that's when my bench like really peaks. Because like I can't hit. Well, I mean I can, but like for example, when I benched 555 at Nats, I've never moved it that fast in training. No, I've benched that in training, but it didn't move like that, you know. And it seems to be historically like I have to wait for my meets to be able to hit my top end. Like I have to have like a good peak and all that stuff, right? Um, like even the deadlift, like I pulled 788 at Nats, and I've never moved it that fast. You know, like I had five more on there at that time, and so I'm just like, there's a bit of patience I have to learn about that, where I'm just like, okay, I have to like really just it just has to happen at the meet, and I can't like force numbers out in training, um, you know. So yeah, that's the number I've had in mind for 2 years now. But first things first is 930, obviously. It's just like again, we talked about it's like when do I have the opportunities to do that versus like because you have to build a total. Because when you go to competitions against other competitors, that's as like dense as the 93s, you have to build a total, right? So I can't just go all out. And we've talked about that. You kind of you have to play the game, you have to play the day. But if I ever get the opportunity where I can just kind of like do a meet for fun and I can just kind of max out, I just want to see what happens, because I haven't had that in only 4 years. Every meet I've done in the past 4 years is like I have to go against. Yeah, you have to play the day, right? So it's really interesting. Um, yeah, fuck. Yeah, man. Like, man, I just no, I'm just it just makes me so excited because I just like want to. It makes me want to. I want to go train now, thinking about it. But
That's why sometimes Penna, he's going to do his own silent worker meet, but sometimes he's like, no water cut, weight cut out. Don't give a shit what you weigh in at. Go to it's a local meet and just drop those numbers.
just fucking just send
You
it.
know,
Yeah,
just send it. You'll
yeah.
be the lightest 105 in the world. Who gives a shit? You're 95 kilos. Whatever. You don't even think about cutting nothing. All you're doing is just dropping that hammer. Let's see what happens. And send that. And that could be the funnest, man.
Yeah,
You know, but you got to pick and choose because you
yeah,
got so much on the
yeah,
schedule. So
yeah. So, yeah, it's cool, man. It's such a cool life. So, um, fuck. Yeah, I just want to, man. I was like, even watching it because the events meet happened yesterday, for whenever this comes out, and just like watching, it's just like watching people compete always makes me like fuck, I want to go compete. Even when I did the bench meet, even just doing the bench meet in the Philippines, just doing bench only. I didn't cut. I actually drank water into the weigh-in to weigh as heavy as I could. Like I like chugged a
mm,
bunch just to be funny. Yeah, but like even that scratched an itch of competing for me. And it was just like I was just a guest lifter. And it was cool because like it's still it's still a meet. You're still getting commands, you're
mm.
still in the crowd. Yeah. Oh, uh oh man, I want to tell you, I know we were wrapping up, but who cares? We'll just keep I'm gonna talk a little longer. So one of our when we were in the Philippines, um we actually got pulled over. It's just a funny story. We got pulled over, which is insane because there's no rules there anyways for driving. It's chaos. It's like 5 lanes of people just like bikes and just fighting each other. There's no people don't even drive in the lane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we get pulled over and we're just like, so but
Oh
basically what
fuck.
that means is usually like a cop like wants a bribe or something. It's kind of like, and he's like, do you know why we pulled you over? And
Because you
um,
want to bribe.
no, Esme's like, yeah, it's okay. I'll just pay it. It doesn't matter. Just show me. And we had just come from my meeting one of my family members, so we were all dressed up nice. And I had like a polo. I had a bunch of like all my jewelry on. I had a nice watch and necklaces on and stuff, right? And I was sitting in the
Oh
back,
no.
and I was like in the back just like this. I was just like looking out the window, and he's like, look, he's all like, the cop was like very, like, okay, give me your license registration, and he hands it back. He's like, he looks in, and I swear to God, he looks in, and like I turn my head, and we like make eye contact, and his like the color like drop like disappeared from his face, and he started like sweating, and then he was just like, he started like stuttering. He was like, "Oh, you know, I'll let you guys off with a warning." Like yeah. And we were saying he probably thought I was like some like something, like some VIP
Like
or
he's like, fuck, I just pulled over a diplomat. I'm gonna lose
yeah,
my
yeah,
job.
yeah.
At best, I lose my job. Oh my god. No, or this guy's connected in ways I don't need to know.
Something, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because we were all dressed up. We were all dressed like pretty nice, and we're like buff too, like,
I was about to say you're thick as hell and
yeah,
definitely gonna stand out. He'll be like, what is this guy? I
yeah,
don't know. I don't want to know. Yeah, pray.
yeah. So that was an interesting story. So
I'm glad you got it in there. That was
yeah,
worth it. You're right.
yeah.
Trust always trust your instincts.
Yeah, that was a fun one. But man, but yeah, man. I think that yeah, yeah. There's like I'm sure there's more I can talk about, but that we got through the gist of it. So yeah, thank
Also,
you for having me, man. Oh, sorry, what
also,
do you
my
say?
dude, I guarantee you'll be back. So don't worry about if there's more. We always got we got plenty of conversations to be had. We'll
Oh yeah,
bring you back and we'll go over all your journeys and recap some more. But yeah, man, phenomenal conversation as always. Stay healthy, my sir. Stay injury free. And let's see what the first quarter brings. But either which way, man, wherever you end up on, whatever platform you end up on, just freaking give those boys hell and let's go to war one more time, huh?
yeah,
Let's go.
yep.
All right, my dude. Thanks you for coming on. And for everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, six pack Lapadatt, six up, and we are